This podcast of the Equine Forum is brought to you by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business. It all begins in 15 seconds right after this word from our podcast sponsor.
The University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business is now offering a graduate certificate, which can be completed in 15 or 30 weeks and be done as a standalone or used as 20% of your MBA. Classes at both the undergraduate and graduate level are forming now.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Into the stretch in the summer, and Harlan's Harmony the crack, joined by Conquest Fahrenheit, who's run to the front. Good Samaritan right down the outside, gobbling them up, and Good Samaritan has gone on by very easily. Good Samaritan charging clear. Conquest Fahrenheit in second, slightly checked was just a slam, but from the back, and Joel Rosario sending Good Samaritan to the Breeders' Cup.
Greenpeace roaring down the center of the course. I'm a Dreamer trying to hold on. Greenpeace, Miss Keller, three of them in a heart-stopping finish. Picture time. Was it Miss Keller, I'm a Dreamer, or Greenpeace in a three-horse win photo in the E.P. Taylor Stakes?
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Right down the center of the track, coming on is Gamble's Ghost, but are they going to get Catch a Glimpse? They go to the final furlong, and she's just rolling and rolling with enormous strides. Oh, she's long gone, and Catch a Glimpse is going to absolutely demolish them. And Catch a Glimpse wins the Natoma hands down.
Wise Dan is next to the rail. Cityscape in an all-out drive on the outside. Worthad could not stay with the front two, and it's Wise Dan under a hand ride. Now Johnny Velasquez shows him the whip, last 16th of a mile. Wise Dan, a jaw-dropping performance to win the Rico Woodbine Mile.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Good morning once again, everyone. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, welcoming you to the show that launched a network. It is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires, right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Happy to have you breaking from the starting gate with me right up until 11 a.m. Eastern on Sirius 162, XM 207, our affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, and streaming worldwide and podcast on our website, horseracingradio.net, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Well, I'm coming to you this morning live from the backside barn area at Woodbine, which is the perfect way to wrap up Woodbine week here on HRRN. And this is where I'm going to spend the next 3 hours getting you ready for the 6 graded stakes set to be contested on what is being billed as Turf Champions Day. And I'm going to tell you more about that in just a minute, but I want to begin today's show by extending an extremely heartfelt thank you to Lindsay Bax for all of her help with our accommodations and our setup, not just this morning, but throughout the entire week. Lindsay is a member of the Woodbine marketing team, and her incredible hospitality has gone well above and beyond what any member of the media could ever ask for. But as I've told you many, many times on this program and other shows that you've listened to here on the network, when you come to Woodbine, you can expect that the red carpet is going to be rolled out, because that's just what they do, and they do it better than anybody. The other thing they do extremely well here at the suburban Toronto racetrack is make incredible food in the track kitchen. And I know that because I'm sitting just about 30 yards away from the counter where Colleen and her entire team have been taking care of grooms and exercise riders and hot walkers and trainers throughout the morning. And they'll continue to do so here in the track kitchen. The food, unbelievable. Trust me, I know. And I'm on day 3 of eating breakfast here in the track kitchen, and it is really, really good. It's the perfect way to get ready for today's 4 Grade 1 stakes. 3 of those, by the way, are win-in-your-in races for the Breeders' Cup. You have the Natoma for the Juvenile Fillies Turf, the Summer Stakes for the Juvenile Turf, and the Woodbine Mile, which will be a win-in-your-in for the Breeders' Cup Mile. And among the storylines in those races are some extremely familiar faces. You have dual Hall of Fame trainer Mark Casse, who's put in 21 entries across the 4 Grade 1 races. You have 8 in the Natoma. He entered 9 in the Summer Stakes, 3 in the Woodbine Mile, and then defending champion and reigning Canadian Horse of the Year Fev Rover in the E.P. Taylor. And that's going to be a tremendous race because she will renew her rivalry with 2022 Canadian Horse of the Year Moira. Now, in fairness, several of Mark's entries in the Natama and the Summer Stakes, those 2-year-old races, are cross-entered. And I'm going to try and get the latest changes for you as we move throughout the show. As soon as they make them available, I'll try to pass them along if we get them during the show here this morning. John Velasquez is back in Canada, which, let me tell you, that usually means trouble for his rivals in the Woodbine Mile. The Hall of Famer has won the mile a record 5 times, and he'll try to make it 6 when he gets a leg up aboard the Josie Carroll trained Play Me a Tune in today's edition. A bit of a long shot, but Josie Carroll, the Hall of Fame trainer, John Velasquez, the Hall of Fame jockey, Play Me a Tune, has a shot just based on those connections. Now, standing in his way are the powerhouse team of trainer Charlie Appleby, jockey William Buick, and owner Godolphin. Always tough to beat, especially here at Woodbine. And they're looking for the hat trick in the Woodbine Mile. They're going to try to do that with morning line favorite Naval Power after winning last year with Master of the Seas and 2 years ago with Modern Games. Even money on the morning line is what the program reads for Naval Power. Those are just a few of the storylines set to unfold here at Woodbine this afternoon. The weather couldn't be more perfect. It has been like that throughout the week. Crystal clear blue skies. We're expecting temperatures right around 80 degrees. A firm, gorgeous emerald green turf course. I couldn't take my eyes off of it yesterday. We were hosted by Lindsay and the team here at Woodbine yesterday, and it was spectacular. The sun glistening off of that green turf course was really something to see. If you haven't been to Woodbine, I'm telling you, you got to put it on your bucket list. This track is so unique, and that massive E.P. Taylor turf course is on the outside of the dirt course. If you think about it, pretty much every track you go to, you have the dirt course on the outside and then the turf course to the inside. Here you have the E.P. Taylor course, then the all-weather surface to the inside of that, and then the inner turf course, which used to be the harness racing surface, on the inside of the Tapeta surface. So 3 very unique surfaces, and all 3 of those will be hosting graded stakes later this afternoon. As a matter of fact, if you go to our Twitter page, at HRRN on Twitter, for those of you that follow us there, you can see a couple of pictures that we posted yesterday of the extremely unique first turn on the E.P. Taylor course, and then the long home stretch. When they turn for home, it is a long way to the finish line. And you really kind of get a sense of that with those pictures that we posted on our Twitter page yesterday. So go check that out. Let us know what you think. Guests today include Woodbine CEO Michael Copeland. He's going to join me at right around 8:15 Eastern after this first commercial break. Michael came by yesterday. It's a very busy week for him, but he took time yesterday to join me for about 20 minutes. He's been the CEO here at Woodbine for about a full year now. He took over for Jim Lawson, who had held that position for 8 years. You've heard from Jim many times on this program over those 8 years. This is Michael's first appearance, and Michael talks about filling those huge shoes and continuing with the things that Jim Lawson was working on and building here at Woodbine, and then introducing some of his own initiatives and doing it differently moving into the future because of the way that the sports media or the sports landscape is today. You have to do things a little bit differently to engage your fans. And he talks about the challenges of learning to deal with horsemen while also making sure that he handles his corporate responsibilities here at Woodbine Entertainment. It's a really interesting interview. And again, that comes your way in just a few minutes. 9 o'clock Eastern, longtime Mark Casse assistant David Adams. You're going to hear from him. He'll talk about pretty much all of the Casse horses that are entered here today. I just told you there's 21. We walked through most of them with David coming up at 9 Eastern. 9:20, jockey Rafael Hernandez, one of the leading riders here at Woodbine, who has mounts in all 6 graded stakes races today, including Moira in the E.P. Taylor. He'll join us at 9:20. And at 9:40, Canadian Hall of Famer trainer Josie Carroll will stop by for a visit. So all kinds of special guests to get you ready for the big races here. And I know, there are big races in Kentucky too, beneath the TwinSpires. I'm not going to neglect those big stakes races later today. as we kick off the road to the 2025 Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks. The Grade 3 Pocahontas, the Grade 3 Iroquois set to be contested. Richard Rigney will be with me at 8:35. Richard, of course, the principal behind Rigney Racing, the owners of Claire's Charm, who is hoping to draw into the Pocahontas, and Jonathan's Way, one of the likely favorites in the Iroquois. Should be a very interesting interview coming up right around 8:35, 8:40 Eastern this morning. So here's your full lineup, and then I'll throw out the poll question for you. Full lineup of what's ahead on the show here this morning. Michael Copeland, Woodbine CEO, in just a couple of minutes. Richard Rigney, right around 8:40. David Adams, the longtime assistant to Mark Casse, 9 o'clock. Rafael Hernandez, 9:20. Josie Carroll, 9:40. Hour 3 begins at 10 o'clock Eastern with the TwinSpires Triple Play. James Scully has 3 races you can keep an eye on and bet at TwinSpires this afternoon. Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History at 10:20. A really cool story about the origin of the Woodbine Mile, which we will see renewed here this afternoon. And then at 10:30, I Ask, They Answer. Trainer Dale Romans, turf rider Tim Wilkin. One thing we will do as part of that program here today is remember a person that was a friend to all of us and to so many in racing. That is trainer Chuck Simon, who passed away far too soon last Sunday in Saratoga. 57, I believe, is what Chuck was. Way too early. So passionate about the game. He had his podcast going in circles, which he has talked about on this program with me in recent interviews. Somebody who is definitely going to be missed by myself, by Dale, by Tim, and so many of us here in the industry. So we will remember Chuck Simon coming up toward the end of the program here today as well. Poll question for you. Let's keep it simple. Who is your pick to win the Woodbine Mile? Is it the favorite Naval Power? Is it Filo di Ariana from the Mark Casse barn? How about Big Rock? Another horse that a lot of people are looking at as having a shot in there. Or is it someone else? Those are your 4 choices. And if you choose someone else, please comment. Let me know who you think upsets the big 3. Naval Power, Filo di Ariana, Big Rock, or someone else. Go to @HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook to weigh in on that poll question. And as always, if you don't do social media, email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, and I will update the results of that poll as we move throughout the morning. Woodbine CEO Michael Copeland coming up next to kick off this edition of the Equine Forum live from Woodbine, and all presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Scott Mallory is once again offering a strong group of yearlings in books 2 through 6 at the upcoming Keeneland September yearling sale. With proven sires such as Curlin, Blame, American Pharaoh, and Liam's Map, as well as hot new sires such as Yopon, Bo Liam, Tacitus, and Charlatan. The Scott Mallory consignment has something for everyone with 48 offerings, books 2 through 6 at Keeneland September. Look for future Scott Mallory consignments at Lone Star Park's TTA sale, Fasig-Tipton Timonium, and the Fasig-Tipton Kentucky October sale.
When it's time to paint the fences and barns, think Farm Paint. At Farm Paint, you get the industry's best coatings and paints factory direct at low prices. Farm Paint is your source for quality paints, roof coatings, dustless arena footings, and more. You can purchase online or drop into a Farm Paint store near you with locations in heart of bluegrass country at 700 Phillips Lane in Lexington, Kentucky, Columbus, Ohio, and Sandusky, Ohio. Buy factory direct and save at farmpaint.com. That's farmpaint.com.
Churchill Downs 14-day September meet runs September 12th through the 29th. The September meet starts the kickoff to the road to the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks with the $300,000 Grade 3 Iroquois and the $300,000 Grade 3 Pocahontas. Both races for 2-year-olds will be run on September 14th. The meet will also showcase many horses preparing for the Breeders' Cup in November, with 11 stakes worth more than $3.5 million in purses, which are powered by the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund. You are not going to want to miss the September meet at Churchill Downs. For tickets and more information, visit churchilldowns.com.
This is Woodbine Week on HRRN.
Experience the thrill of world-class racing now at Toronto's Woodbine Racetrack. With live racing Thursday through Sunday, you can enjoy the best turf racing around with daily action over the famed E.P. Taylor Turf Course. Join us this Saturday, September 14th, for 3 Grade 1 Breeders' Cup win and you're in races with the Woodbine Mile, Natalma Stakes, and Summer Stakes. For wagering updates, handicapping tips, racing news, and more, visit woodbine.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
World Approval tackled by Deauville the center. Conquest Panthera the outside. Finishing is Mondialese right down the outside from the back. Lancaster Bomber is there, but it is World Approval who slips away. World Approval in front, right down the outside. Finishing on is Mondialese and Lancaster Bomber, but World Approval wins the Rico Woodbine Mile by almost 3 lengths. Second placing has gone in the centre to Lancaster Bomber, and in behind them we had out wide Mondialese and Long on Valley running on, and back in the centre was a Rod. Conquest Panthera Weekend with Dutch Connection.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Robert Geller with the call of the 2017 running of the Woodbine Mile. That's the most recent victory, by the way, for Hall of Famer John Velasquez, who owns a record 5 victories in the mile. Coming up later today, he will ride Play Me a Tune for Josie Carroll. And it would be a first win in the race, believe it or not, for the Hall of Famer Josie Carroll. We'll see if they can get it done. We're going to spend plenty of time talking about that race and all of the other action coming up at Woodbine this afternoon. But now I get the opportunity to visit with a gentleman who nearly 1 year ago took the reins as Woodbine's CEO. Michael Copeland was replacing Jim Lawson, who had held that position for 8 years and is now serving as executive director of Woodbine's board of directors. He is with me now. Michael Copeland, good morning, my friend.
Good morning.
Yeah, looking forward to the conversation. You know, I was thinking about it. Jim and I spent plenty of time talking over the years on the show and off air too. He led Woodbine to some pretty lofty levels in his tenure. You have some big shoes to fill, but I was going back through and reading the press release when Woodbine released their corporate responsibility report last fall. It was shortly after you took over, and the theme was honoring our past, building our future. Whew. Awesome responsibility on both sides of that fence. How have you been able to do it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's certainly Jim is a giant of the sport, and certainly for Woodbine, and we're lucky that Jim's still very much involved as chair of the board, and I work very closely with Jim and benefit from his experience and his guidance. But you know, the board and I share the view that there's so much more to be done. So we've put the organization on a really solid footing. It's our racing is best in class here. Our operations are fantastic. We've got a really good infrastructure in terms of wagering and you know, the core business. But this, as everybody knows that's sort of worked in this business or been close to it, it is difficult. You know, it is difficult. The owners and the trainers and the backstretch workers, they grind it out. It's tough day to day. We want to do better for them. We want their conditions to be better. We want them to be earning more. And so how do we do that, right? So driving wagering is the core way we do that, and we're investing in new technologies, and we're trying to be smarter and move into new areas like sports betting, which we can talk about. But in addition to that, we're saying we have an opportunity to actually supplement what we do, and this is a normal thing for racetracks to look at ways that they can align with casinos or with other businesses. So we do have a relationship with a brand new casino that's being built on our property. And when I say our property, Woodbine owns the land that the track sits on, which is about 600 acres.
Wow.
So a big piece of land. So part of that is an arrangement by which the brand new state-of-the-art casino is just constructed, and we've got a relationship with them where we benefit from their success. And then we also have plans to develop the rest of the property, so we're investing to build those projects and those initiatives out, and when they come to be, what that's going to do is it's going to bring more revenue in. It's going to supplement and support what we do from a core business, and it's going to allow us to put that back into the industry, because Woodbine is a corporation without share capital. We don't have investors. We don't take dividends out. Everything we do is for the benefit of the Ontario racing industry. So ultimately, our goal and how I judge my personal success is at the point that we can raise purses and afford it, that's the true measure of success. So that's ultimately everything we do comes down to that one focal point. It's what we're doing is we're planting some really, really important initiatives that's going to allow us to do that and have some incredible strength when we do it. So there's a lot of different initiatives that are working in parallel, but we're really optimistic about all of them.
And it's very much a balancing act on your part as CEO. You have to make sure that you're keeping the horsemen happy while also taking care of your corporate responsibilities too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's without the industry, all of that other stuff goes away. So you can't be too focused on the future, to your point. And so it is a balance, but at the same time, we have to invest. We have to put ourselves in a position where we can realize, create a better day, better future, right? Create that has more stability, that has greater financial strength. And all of us make these choices in our day-to-day lives. It's difficult about how you save versus how you spend. So it's just, we're doing it on a grander scale.
The expanded casino, the hotel, the changes that have already taken place are spectacular. Mm-hmm. And I've always said that when you come to Woodbine, they're going to roll out the red carpet for you. So whether you're media or you're a fan or you're a horseman, Woodbine is going to take care of you, and you've done that for many, many years. Talk about some of the changes that are still forthcoming on the horizon.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the casino. That's the first one that anybody firstly, our track is beautiful, and I think people are really taken by that. The sort of the scale and the majesty of the E.P. Taylor turf course, which you'll see in the E.P. Taylor Classic. It really is special to see. But when you add to that the new casino building, so there's a major new casino, there's a concert venue, 5,000-seat concert venue, and a hotel. And the hotel, by the way, for racing fans, looks right over the track. So it's a pretty amazing spot. But in addition to that, what we're trying to do is reimagine and reinvent the experience for people that come to the track. So we've made investments in a new Stella Artois Terrace, which is a really fun outdoor sort of more casual way to watch the races. Think of couches and high top tables, and sometimes we have some music playing, and so it's a different experience. We've just created our new homestretch bar right on the rail, which we've got suites that are built with a bar and food service, so you can get right up to the right on the edge of the E.P. Taylor. And just trying to think of what does the racing fan today want to experience, because I think oftentimes, especially in sports that have such history and such success as racing has, you can rest in your laurels a little bit. So I think the challenge is to preserve the best parts of the past, make sure you're taking care of your core, but not be afraid to sort of move into new areas and try to really understand what does racing mean within the sports ecosystem today, and how can we make ourselves as successful as possible with the new competitive dynamics, other sports, other ways that people consume sports, whether it's moving away from television into online, shorter form content. People are now consuming it through betting apps and podcasts. And so how do we change who we are? Again, preserving the best parts, but moving into new territory, and physical spaces play a role in that.
What's the biggest challenge to making that happen in horse racing?
The biggest challenge is the courage to do new things. I think, because
historically racing's not a fan of change and new things. They like things the way they are.
You know what? But I think that's the same in any sport that's been around for a long time, and especially ones that have been around and had a lot of success.
Yeah.
If we could beam ourselves back to the discussions that happened in the NBA before they brought in the 3-point line, I'm sure it wasn't a unanimous, like everybody holding hands on that one. I worked in football before, and it was a very similar experience where if you think about bringing in new rules, you get a lot of people that have occupied really important, prominent roles, decision makers, that lived in the years when everything was fantastic. They loved the way it was.
Yep.
So that's where it gets to, there are certain things you preserve, but there are certain things you have to allow yourself to at least explore what it could mean if you change. It doesn't mean you always change for change's sake. That's a mistake. But when you do realize that there's a benefit and perhaps a different set of circumstances now where change is really going to help, you sort of have to rush and not rush, but you have to go into that thoughtfully and be bold enough to evolve. So I think the biggest change is just allowing, convincing people, earning the trust that, anybody who's proposing change loves the sport as much as everyone else does.
Yeah.
And the motivation is for it to be even more wildly successful than it already is. So I think once you convince people that you have the right motivations, you want the sport to continue to be loved at those that love it, but be loved by more people and new people. Then I think people can step back and say, okay, I want that too. I understand that. That's a good place to be. And then you start gaining alignment. So I think that's what we're trying to do, is to understand how do we continue to evolve, but do it in a really thoughtful way.
Visiting with Woodbine CEO Michael Copeland here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Michael, you mentioned the football background. You served as president and CEO of the Canadian Football League's Toronto Argonauts. You did that for several years from 2015 to 2018, and then president of the CFL's head office from 2006 to 2015. Is there anything you take away from those experiences in another major sport that helps you as you move Woodbine into the future?
The major thing is just sort of on the theme that what we were talking about is respecting tradition, but moving into a new era, not being blind to the new dynamics that come into play. And there's a lot in sport, whether it's football or racing or really any sport. All sport, all entertainment is kind of dealing with entirely new dynamic. People consuming video in new ways. People cord cutting from television. People consuming content instead of long form content, where whether it's a traditional major sport, team sport, where you'd sit down and watch a game for 3 hours, which I still do on occasion and certainly did very, very regularly in the past. Now it's like, okay, I'll get up and I'll watch the highlights. So if you can step back and say, is that an erosion of people's attachment to the sport? Or you can say, no, it's just they're consuming it in a different way. They're still attached to it. They still love it. They're still interested in it. It's just the dynamic we have has certain people consuming in different ways. So I see that as an opportunity. And so I think that there's parallels between any, what I call legacy traditional sport that has mass appeal, that has to continue to move. It's like anything. It's like any business. You have to continue to evolve, be aware of your circumstances. So I think racing is, it's very, very special. I think it's in many ways more special than any other sport, in that there is just such a emotional, natural reaction that people get when you watch the races. Like, the thing that I love is when you watch a race. And if it's really close, you keep your eyes on the finish line. But oftentimes, I'll turn around and look at the crowd, and you'll see people just unbridled, for lack of a better term, just jumping up and down, and they're really, really into it. That is something you can't create. The marketers don't create that. That's an attachment between the individual and the animal, and the individual and the jockey, and the individual and the sport. That is very, very special, and that's what we have in this industry, in this sport, and that's what we need to cherish, and that we need to continue to get more people the opportunity to have as part of the things they're interested in. And when that is the core and that's the essence of it, I like our chances.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've said for years and years and years on this program that if you could take that feeling that you get from winning a horse race as a bettor, as an owner, as a trainer, in any level, and you could bottle that and you could sell it, this would be the most successful sport in the world.
Yep. And it can be.
Yeah.
Right. So it's we love it. Those of us that are are working in it and spend our time trying to grow it, love it. We know that there's millions and millions of people in Canada, in North America, and around the world that love it. And so, our goal is to reinforce that, make them love it even more, and bring it to new people. And we've got such interesting new ways to do that, with sports betting now being introduced in Ontario about a year and a half ago. Woodbine has a deal with Bet365 where our horse racing is offered through the Bet365 online sports betting platform. That's bringing us into a whole new demographic of people that otherwise may not get to the track, or one of our off-track betting locations, perhaps don't have a physical experience or history with racing, but we now have this entirely new way to interact with them, and interact with them outside of race days.
Yep.
So that's a gift, and that's a huge opportunity, and those fans in many ways are different than our core fans, and that's okay. And so they need to be treated differently, and we need to present the sport and talk about the sport in new ways, so we appeal to them. And some of those fans will convert into the hardcore, and develop a more sort of traditional way of being a fan or having it as part of their lives, and some of them will stay casual. But I think having both as sort of our future goal is what's going to make this evolve to the next level, and that next level is going to be pretty fantastic.
There are plenty of people listening that may be thinking, oh boy, here we go again. Here's a guy that comes from an outside sport, comes into our industry, tries to make decisions on racing, and doesn't have any idea how the sport works. You're not one of those guys. You have had an interest and a love of racing for a very long time. So take me back to that story. How did you first fall in love with the sport?
Well, my father-in-law was an owner and a trainer of thoroughbreds here at Woodbine for decades, and my wife grew up in a horse farm north of Toronto. And so even when I was sort of working in other sports, I would spend my time here at the track, and it was a regular for us. It's where we had our family get-togethers. I would sit in the tack room of Nick DeToro was his name, and talk about racing. He was the smartest guy I've ever met. We would sit down, and I'd get him to explain the business to me. I mean, how does it work as a he's a relatively small owner and trainer, but tell me how it works. How do you make money? Where are your risks? Where are your opportunities? What would you do differently? And this is years before I ever even contemplated having an opportunity here. I had a relationship with Jim Lawson prior to being at Woodbine, and when we'd get together just to catch up, we'd do it right where we're sitting right now, right in the backstretch kitchen, and have a coffee out of the styrofoam cups and go watch training. And so, I have an attachment to it. I have a personal appreciation of how difficult it is for the people in the business. I know it's a grind. I know that it takes resilience and commitment. And my singular goal is to create a better environment for those people. I mean, that's why we're here. It's the day that we can put this on a very strong and sustainable position to create a better working environment, economic environment for everybody that works in this industry. That's success for me. So that's where I'm aiming for.
I understand you're also a big fan of Olympic gold medal swimmers, one in particular.
Yeah, we all have things that we do sort of out of on our personal time, personal interests, and one of those is I'm fortunate enough to have a relationship with Summer McIntosh, the Canadian Olympic 3-time gold medalist in Paris, and
it takes a while to say that, right?
Yeah,
that's just part of her resume.
She's a special person, and I'm fortunate enough to be working with her and just helping her as she navigates her career from a 14-year-old that swam in the Tokyo Olympics to now becoming a multiple Olympic champion. And if I can bring anything from my experience to help her in her journey, but it's really about just helping a young, inspirational, great person achieve her goals and do it in a way that protects her and allows her to kind of be happy and successful. And so it's great. It's a real privilege to be able to spend time and help her where I can.
She is in good hands, as is Woodbine Entertainment going forward. Michael, we appreciate the visit. All the best. Congrats on the successful first year. Let's keep it rolling into the future.
Thank you.
All right, Michael Copeland here on HRRN. When I come back, going to transition down to Churchill Downs. We'll get you down there to visit with owner Richard Rigney. We'll talk about the Iroquois and the Pocahontas. That's next after this short commercial break and this week's edition of your Legends of the Turf.
Sam Riddle, owner of Man o' War, once made the now famous remark, "Thoroughbreds don't cry." By that he meant that they had the heart and courage to keep on trying no matter how badly the odds were stacked against them. There are those of which legends are formed, like Black Gold and Dark Secret, both of whom broke a leg during the running of the race but refused to stop running until they crossed the finish line still fighting. Undoubtedly, one of the most memorable tests of heart in the chronicled annals of thoroughbred racing was the 2-year-old ongoing duel between two superior colts, Aladar and Affirmed. Both were chestnuts, both schooled by top trainers, and both were members of the same outstanding Reza native family. In toto, they both typified all that was poignantly majestic about the thoroughbred breed itself. Affirm was a good little horse, standing at 15.3 hands, that's about 5 feet 1 inch, and Aladar was a good big horse, standing at 16.2 hands, about 5 feet 4 inches. You know, there's an old racing adage to the effect that a good big horse will beat a good small horse. Those who echoed that well-known refrain forgot one simple thing. Affirmed was a fanatic. Once he got to the lead, he absolutely refused to let another horse get by him. The fact was that Aladar was also a fanatic and that he refused to stop trying to pass, no matter how consistently Affirmed defeated him. In their first 6 meetings, Affirmed had whipped Aladar 4 times. But when they went postward beneath the hallowed twin spires of Churchill Downs in the lengthening late afternoon shadows of an early May afternoon in the run for the Roses, Aladar was the crowd betting favorite. One of the fascinating aspects of the Affirmed Aladar battles was the difference in their respective running styles. Affirmed was a quick breaker, and once in front, flatly refused to relinquish his advantage. Aladar was a relatively slow breaker who came from off the pace to make one big run. That 1978 Kentucky Derby showcased those patterns and tendencies most graphically indeed. Although Aladar chased Affirmed valiantly, the Little Harborview colt won the race over the game Calumet colt, which thereby upped the composite log to Affirmed 5 wins, Aladar 2. It turned out to be a case of equine deja vu in the run for the Black-Eyed Susans at Pimlico 2 weeks later. This time, the big horse made an even more determined run for the lead and was defeated by a bare neck. Laz Barara, Affirmed's trainer, said that even if they had gone around again, Aladar would never have caught him. There were not many others, including Aladar himself, who bought into Barara's absolute vote of confidence. The Calumet colt went postward as the favorite in the ultimate test, the 1.5-mile run for the Carnations, the Belmont Stakes. And there was a solid faction of knowing horsemen who were of the opinion Aladar had been whipped by Affirmed so many times, 6 out of 8, that in effect Affirmed had broken Aladar's heart, as it were, and that the race would be a walkover for Affirmed. The 111th Belmont will be long remembered by Ogden Phipps, then president of the New York Racing Association, and everybody else who saw it as well as, quote, the greatest horse race I've ever seen, unquote. I was a witness, but I must frankly say the match race between Alsab and Whirlaway at Narragansett in 1942 was better. So be it. Nevertheless, Affirmed got away from the barrier with his customary quick start and then dropped into second place just off the pace, lying in wait like a tiger ready to pounce on his prey. Aladar broke in rather leisurely fashion and came from further back to challenge on the outside. With the indomitable spirit of a truly great horse, he began his ambitious assault on Affirmed in spite of his recent defeats at the hands of the latter, defeats that would have made any lesser thoroughbred stop trying. Speeding rapidly to the head of the field, Affirmed and Aladar came to the 3/8 pole eyeball to eyeball. Matching each other with stride for magnificent stride, they had covered the first mile in 1:37 2. Muscles strained to the bursting point, neither magnificent colt giving an inch. Their strides were in perfect synchronization with the respective riders in fluid motion as they pounded down the long Belmont stretch in what was truly poetry in motion. Then Aladar, in the moment everybody had waited for, stuck his nose out for just a mere fraction of an inch further than affirmed. It seemed just for an instant that Aladar's long battle had finally been won. The prolonged intensity of that duel for the lead and the assertive move would well have given cause for most other horses to back off and settle for a most respectable second place. For a fleeting moment, it looked as if Affirmed would tire and slow down, but he reached down into the depths for that X plus, that little something extra that only the great ones have, that which makes a thoroughbred a true champion. In one singularly bold display of the ultimate in courage, the little horse with the enormous heart gathered every ounce of power that was within him and thrust his note a good 3 inches past that of Aladar. And that's the way it stayed as they hit the finish line. To this very day, the question is hotly debated. Which horse had more heart, the one who would not be beaten, or the one who kept being beaten but came back for each successive confrontation, trying harder and harder to win? You see, Aladar didn't know how to cry, and in that context he exemplified the consummate thoroughbred. But history shows, and the fact remains, it was Affirmed that had that intangible something extra, that X plus. As Laz Barara phrased it when, the following summer, the good little Triple Crown winner thundered home under an impost of 132 pounds to win the Hollywood Gold Cup and become the first thoroughbred to earn $2 million, quote, Affirmed is like my father. When you ask him for a quarter to go to the movies, he'd have to search all of his pockets, but you knew he'd find one somewhere, unquote. And by the way, there's a great sports trivia question emanating from that 1978 Triple Crown. Who was the only horse ever to run second in all 3 Triple Crown races? It was Aladar. No, indeed, thoroughbreds do not cry.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Churchill Downs 14-day September meet runs September 12th through the 29th. The September meet starts the kickoff to the road to the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks with the $300,000 Grade 3 Iroquois and the $300,000 Grade 3 Pocahontas. Both races for 2-year-olds will be run on September 14th. The meet will also showcase many horses preparing for the Breeders' Cup in November, with 11 stakes worth more than $3.5 million in purses, which are powered by the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund. You are not going to want to miss the September meet at Churchill Downs. For tickets and more information, visit churchilldowns.com.
His sire is one of the most exciting young stallions in the world. His dam has become one of the most important brood mares in the industry. And on the first Saturday in May, his genetic brilliance shined brightest on racing's biggest stage.
They come into the final 16, and it is going to be Mage to win the Kentucky Derby.
Mage, standing at Airdrie Stud. Think about it.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
They're at the top of the stretch with McHale to catch. In the center, Jonathan's Way. And in between those two, Moments Notice, Jonathan's Way in a serious effort here. Made a dramatic move and opens up with authority. Jonathan's Way, the son of Vekoma. Sparkling debut, wins by 4. Moments Notice second, Social Hour third, Perfect Force was fourth.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, coming to you this morning live from Woodbine in Toronto, getting ready for a huge afternoon of racing north of the border. It's also a pretty big day down at Churchill Downs beneath the TwinSpires with a couple of Grade 3s for the juveniles, the Iroquois, the Pocahontas. You just heard Frank Miramati with the call of Jonathan's Way, breaking his maiden at first asking at Saratoga back on August 17th. It was a sparkling effort, and that is music to the ears of my next guest, owner Richard Rigney, the man behind Rigney Racing. Richard, good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Doing very well. I appreciate the time. As you were listening to the replay of Jonathan's Way winning that maiden race, what was going through your mind?
Oh my God! It brought back memories of being at Saratoga. It was, at first, it was a little bit disappointed. We had a little bad start there, and you just see him steadily moving up and fan, 5, 6 wide, and you could see, he's a real powerful horse, and we have high hopes on him for probably 2 years now. It was John Moynihan bought a weanling, the Bacomo weanling out of Female Drama, and that's this horse, Jonathan's Way, who's named after my son. So we've always thought very highly of him, and we're real excited about running today. And there's some good competition in there, and Evan Almighty looks like a real contender as well. But we can hardly wait for racing to come today.
And I can see why. When you have a talented 2-year-old like this and he shows that kind of promise at first asking and kind of justifies the belief that you had in him from the very beginning, that's a special combination, Richard.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a lot of times when we're breaking these horses, we're all trying to figure out which ones we like the best, and some of the ones that we think are going to do really well don't do as well, and some of the ones that we're thinking are in the middle of the pack actually do well. And so, but this was exciting. And this is the first. We usually focus on fillies, so we've had some success with Played Hard, Kidra, and Too Sharp right now. And then those were always horses when they were yearlings and where they were in training. We were like, hey, these fillies might take us to promised land. But Jonathan's Way, he's going to be he's our first colt that we felt that way, that this might be a good one for us. So hopefully he can move forward today, and maybe we'll get fortunate enough to go to the Breeders' Cup.
He is an Ohio bred, and that's kind of cool in its own right to see an Ohio bred competing against open company here in a race like the Iroquois. That's pretty awesome too.
I know, and that's one of the interesting things about our bloodstock agent, John Moynihan.
Yeah,
he's looking at the physical completely. He's looking at picking out athletes. So, we're looking across the board from high end studs, the Intimitious and the Tappets to freshman stallions, and so it's we're all across the board. So I think that's our big thing. We're looking for athletes.
You mentioned your talented filly, Too Sharp, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but Dale Romans and turf writer Tim Wilkin join me for a segment every week on the show at 10:30 Eastern, and we're in the process of going through a contest where I'm playing against Dale and Tim, and we each had to draft our own team of horses, our own stable, if you will. And Dale reached out to Phil Bauer before the contest started, and he said, hey, do you have anything in the barn that I might want to draft? And Too Sharp is now a member of Dale Roman's team in the contest.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, she's talented.
Yeah, she is. She is. We're real excited. She was a little green in the Pirates, but we thought very highly of her. After her maiden win, and she won that easily. And I think a little education was good for her in this last race, and I think she's going to move forward.
What's next for her?
We're kind of uncertain at this point.
Okay. Well, we'll see her down the road for sure. How about Claire's Charm? Claire's Charm, another talented filly looking to draw into the Pocahontas later today. Have you gotten word of any of the scratches? Is she in?
I am extremely nervous about that. We have not heard anything yet. There was a horse that was coming from Penn National, and we were like, the horse hadn't come in, and we just heard last night that the horse came in. We're like, oh, darn it. So
you never want to cheer for something to happen to any of the other horses, but if somebody decides not to run in that race today and pick another spot, that's okay.
That's okay. And I'm cheering for everyone. I'm just happy to be in the game. I want everyone to do well. If we we lose races, it's okay with me. We always, shake the hand of the trainer and the owners, and when we see them, we always congratulate them. We're big fans, and we're good sports.
Claire's Charm has only had one outing, just like Jonathan's Way, but Claire's Charm came up a bit short. She was second, beaten in neck. She is still a maiden. What gives you the confidence that she belongs in a race like the Pocahontas?
Well, if you look at the race, it's at Saratoga, so you're running against the best horses. And at the beginning of the start, she breaks okay, but she gets pinched between two horses, and she gets, she goes out the back. So she ran after Jonathan's Way, and it was like very similar to him, except for she just came up a little bit short. And when she was running, she was still trying. She was actually at the very end when the horse passed her. You could tell that she was trying, and she was staying with the other horse, maybe even gaining a little bit. So we kind of felt like, oh, that's just too bad. Phil said, why don't we just shoot at it? It's a 2-year-old race, and we're kind of dreamers, so we just thought, why not? Let's give it a shot. I know we're at 12-1, but the other thing I like about that race, it's a mile going out of the chute. We got a long time before the turn. We'll stay out of trouble, and hopefully she can go a mile, and hopefully she can get in the race.
Talking with owner Richard Rigney here on the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Richard, this segment is titled Road to the Breeders' Cup. You have gone down that road a couple of times. You've gotten to the Breeders' Cup. Horses like Kijira and Buku have taken you there. What have those experiences been like for you?
Those were really great experiences. And they're kind of like fun for me too, because we're involved in all aspects of the racing industry. So we breed horses, and we had a mare named Flowering Peach, and we bred this horse, and we were hoping to have to justify it, and we were kind of hoping that we were going to sell the horse. Didn't meet reserve, and that became Buku, and we're like, well, but this is kind of fun, racing your own horse. So this was kind of a great thing too. Kijira was another interesting horse. This was a horse that we bought with John as a yearling, and we were pinhooking it with Eddie Woods. And the horse, no one vetted the horse. And we talked to Eddie, and Eddie was like, I don't know why anyone's not, vetting this horse. This is a really good horse. We don't want to get rid of this horse. You need to race this horse. So thank you, Eddie. I appreciate it. So,
rather be lucky than good any day, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it's been fun for me, and I love this game. And so,
how did you first get interested in racing, Richard?
It started when I was in college, and there was my girlfriend. She was like, "Hey, let's go to Los Alamitos harness track," and I was like, "Never done that before." We went there. I had a great time. And then she said, how about if we go to Santa Anita the next day? And then I was hooked, and I was like 19. So I'm from Southern California, and I love Santa Anita and Del Mar, and those are good times for me.
Could you ever imagine that you would get to this point in your career with owning horses?
No. And that's one of the things I always talk to Phil about is like, I can't even believe we're in this, we're in these races, looking back when I was 19 years old, trying to run a racing for him at Santa Anita. It's like, I can't believe this is happening to me.
That's a wonderful game. What do you like most about being involved in it, Richard?
I like that I'm involved in all aspects of it. So, but probably my most favorite thing is I love Phil. Phil is, he's a dear friend of mine. He's a person, I'm with every day. And, I just really enjoy being around him and his family and his kids. And, as well as John Moynihan, I was a little bit concerned about when we were doing terrible picking horses with me and Phil, and we were going to recruit John Moynihan. My big concern was, I'm going to diminish my value as, being involved in this business. But, John's great, and John's wife, Helena, she calls us the Three Musketeers, and it's really the perfect name for us because it's one for all and all for one. And, we really all care for each other. And it's really a nice thing. I'm John and Helena. They have a daughter named Sophia, and I'm the godfather. So you can tell we're all real close.
I will echo those sentiments. I'm a huge Phil Bauer fan, except for when he sends me deer pictures and he gets a bigger deer than I do. Then I don't care for him a whole lot at that point. But
yeah,
he's a fantastic human being and really, really good horse trainer too. How did that relationship come about between you and Phil?
So that happened where my wife, she ended up buying me shares of a horse. And it was, I've been really lucky in this industry. So she went with Kenny McPeak, and she bought some shares of the first horse was Dream Empress, who ends up winning the Assabodies, comes in second in the Breeders' Cup. And then she bought shares of a horse named Noble's Promise that came in third in the Breeders' Cup and fifth in the Derby. And that's how I met Phil. Phil was originally the groom of Dream Empress, and then he became the assistant trainer to Kenny McPeak, and he was in charge of Noble's Promise, and I ended up buying some horses on my own. It was JCM Racing, which was Jonathan Claire Madison, named after my three kids. You'll see a whole bunch of horses named after those names, and I just like. Phil's kind of like my guy. He's kind of like, we have similar personalities. We get along great. This is a long-term relationship. So we just hit it off, and I asked Phil if he wanted to go out, just me and him, just this is what we're going to do, and we're going to do it long-term.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And it's worked. It's worked beautifully. Yeah. Your silks, the red with the white heart sash and the red cap. Mm-hmm. What's the story behind those?
So I have my kids, where it was JCM Racing, Jonathan Claire Madison. You'll see those names all the time, my horses. So those are the three hearts in the back, and then the two hearts in the front represent my wife and me.
Boy, fantastic stuff. Wonderful story. Richard Rigney, he is having a ton of success, a ton of fun in this game. If you haven't noticed that in this conversation here this morning, you probably should have, because he is really enjoying being part of thoroughbred racing. And Richard, I can't thank you enough for the time here this morning. All the best with Jonathan's Way and Claire's Charm and Too Sharp and all the horses that you have in the stable now. Keep it rolling, and I'm sure we'll catch up again soon.
Great. Pleasure talking to you. Hope everyone has a good day at the races.
All right, my friend. Richard Rigney here on HRRN. When I come back, I'm going to get you ready for a busy second hour of the program. I'll tell you who's in that second hour. It is loaded with content talking about the big day here at Woodbine. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed, Versailles, Kentucky.
The Claiming Crown is returning to Churchill Downs Saturday, November 16th. Make plans to be part of the Claiming Horse version of the Breeders' Cup, showcasing 8 Claiming Crown races offering a minimum of $100,000. Each race will also offer a Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund purse supplement for registered Kentucky breds.
An invaluable goes all the way up top to win at a length and a half.
Eligibility request deadline for the Claiming Crown at Churchill Downs is Saturday, October 26th. Learn more at claimingcrown.com.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becker. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Hi there, it's Scott from Pentatonics. So from the beginning of our journey in music, the foundation has been music education. It's so incredibly important that we continue to show kids the importance of music in our schools, in our homes, and even in the car. Music is such a powerful expression of emotion and individuality, and we are responsible for keeping the love for music alive. This message is courtesy of the United States Air Force.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
On the outside at 12, and they turn up the heat on each other by 3 lengths. Running home is Ride for the Cause down the center. And on the outside at 12, showing acceleration to try and go by Theodora B. They're 3 in front. Then Secret Message and Ride for the Cause at 12 has gone clear. Court Return and Daisuke Fukumoto are flying home down the outside from nowhere. But out in front is at 12. At 12 from Secret Message and Court Return down the outside. At 12 in front. Court Return out in the gods. At 12 on the inside. And Court Return, but at 12 from Court Return. Secret Message, Ride for the Cause, Theodora B. Back second last, Pretty Point, and last Elizabeth Way.
That's Woodbine announcer Robert Geller with the call of the 2020 running of the E.P. Taylor Etoile with the victory under jockey Rafael Hernandez. This year he'll climb aboard Moira. This afternoon she gets that showdown with Fev Rover. They renew their rivalry. You're going to hear from Rafael. He'll be here in person coming up right around 9:20, 9:40, the Hall of Famer Josie Carroll. And coming up in just a few minutes, David Adams, the longtime assistant to trainer Mark Casse, going to talk about the multitude of horses they have running across the 4 Grade 1 races later today. So stay tuned for that. That's all ahead in hour number 2. Want to remind you before we get to that second hour of the program that with over 4,000 yearlings being offered at the Keeneland September sale, which is in the process of beginning week number 2, pursuing yearlings from a consignor that has a track record for raising and selling runners is a huge, huge advantage. And Millridge Sales is a perfect example. Their history of raising and selling racehorses is exceptional, with 39 Grade 1 winners just since 2000. And how about this? Over the last 10 months alone, Millridge has been represented by 4 Grade 1 winners, with Raging C, the most recent, joining Preakness winner Seize the Gray, Tuz, and No Balls. Camp out at the Millridge consignment this Keeneland September. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. And statistics suggest that it will give you your best chance for success with Grade 1 runners. All right, hour 2 begins momentarily right after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Hour 2 of 3 rolling on a very busy morning, live from Woodbine in suburban Toronto, Canada. Huge day of racing, 4 Grade 1, 6 graded stakes, 3 win-in-your-in races coming up this afternoon. And the weather, I say this all the time, when the weather is perfect, Mother Nature must be a racing fan, because the weather absolutely glorious here in Canada this afternoon. Temperatures expected to be right around 80 degrees, plenty of sunshine, not a cloud in the sky, just beautiful Carolina blue skies overhead. And that emerald green turf course, the E.P. Taylor turf course, looking just incredibly gorgeous this morning. You have the inside surface to the E.P. Taylor, which is the synthetic racing surface, and then one more turf course inside of that. So 2 turf courses and then the synthetic sandwiched in between them. It's an incredible venue for racing, and if you haven't been here, put it on your bucket list. You won't be disappointed. Coming to you this morning from the track kitchen, which is a perfect spot to be in, especially if you've ever seen a picture of me. I like to eat, so this is the ideal venue for me. The food is spectacular, and everybody here at Woodbine has really rolled out the red carpet for what promises to be an incredible afternoon of racing. Quick update on the poll question. I'm asking you, who is your pick to win the Woodbine Mile later today? And I gave you the favorite, Naval Power, Filo di Ariana, Big Rock, or someone else. If you pick that category, please comment. Let me know who it is. Naval Power, the favorite, getting all the respect in the voting right now. 67% of HRRN Nation saying it is going to be Naval Power who justifies those short odds. Tom in St. Louis emails the show, and he also agrees and says Naval Power is his top pick. You can go to @HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook to cast your votes, and you can do it, too, by emailing the show, mike@horseracingradio.net. Well, I told you that Mark Casse, the dual Hall of Famer, who is always tough to beat in any race, anywhere, but certainly here in Canada, he has 21 horses entered among those 4 Grade 1 races. Now, several of his juveniles have been cross-entered between the Summer Stakes and the Natama, and his longtime assistant, David Adams, took time to visit with me earlier this week, and I started by saying, David, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
If you go to your bio on the Mark Casse website, it lists one of your favorite horses as AP Indy. How come?
I just enjoy from the day he first started. I've been watching racing from the time I was a kid and just seen him running. Just the way that he ran with his head low down and everything, I just enjoy watching that horse run. And he become one of my favorite horses.
Yeah, he was truly special, and now you get a chance to be around several special horses with Mark Casse. Who are some of the Mark Casse horses you've been around that stand out to you?
Exciting Story. When I first started working with Mark, that's one of the first horses I groomed as a groom. Started working for Mark back in 2001, and then Sealy Hill, Marchfield, Added Age, Gigawatt. Those are my favorite working with Mark, and also been around camping a little bit with Mark and Norman. So.
This relationship with Mark, I mentioned that you started working for him in 2001, but you got interested in horses long before then. Tell me the story of David Adams. Where did the love of horses begin for you?
It became with my dad taking me to the races back in Barbados. One time I was a kid, one time I was about 4 or 5 years old. And from there, I just fell in love with horses. And just every weekend, we would go to the races. And then after that, I just started hanging out with some friends that know horses, know the racetrack, and know people from the racetrack. And they start carrying me to the racetrack. And then I get into the horse racing, start grooming horses and stuff like that.
Who was your first job? Who'd you work for?
I worked for a guy called Chandler Jones. My first job working as a groom with him.
Where was that?
One of the famous jockeys back in Barbados, and then he turned trainer.
It's amazing. There are so many people from Barbados that are now involved in racing here in the U.S., and the first name that comes to mind currently is Safi Joseph Jr., who is such a successful trainer. He was a Triple Crown winning trainer in Barbados, and now he is here training in the States, and he's got horses running at Woodbine on Saturday too. Why do you think that has translated so well to the United States, that people coming from Barbados to the States?
But we have a love of horses, like from Barbados. Like anyone that grew up around horses in Barbados, we just got such a love of horses, and we put all our love into the horses. Like, I mean, from top to bottom and bottom to top, we just spend our time with the horses and just try to do things right by the horses.
What eventually led you to work with Mark Casse?
Our ex-assistant, Ricky Griffith, he was my assistant at the time, and I was knocking around the place working for different trainers, and then one day we was talking, and he told me that they needed help, and he was just shipping him from Ocala, so he told me, come over, and he got a job for me, so I went over, and that's how it started, me working for Mark.
Could you ever think 23 years later you'd still be doing it?
No, I won't be. No, never think. Not at all.
I was looking through some of the numbers, and there's a bunch of big numbers that Mark has put up in his career, and he has 16 Sovereign Awards, which is incredible. You have been with him for all 16, and as his head trainer in Canada, you have to feel like you have one hand on that trophy too, right?
Yes, I know. I mean, it's not for him, for Mark, and the only sending us here some of the really good horses.
So for people that don't understand what an assistant trainer does, David, talk about what your role is with the team and what your day-to-day responsibilities are.
My role is getting up early in the morning, going in about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, checking every horse. I mean, we got 75 horses here right now, and we go through every one of them. I mean, everyone that's working, galloping, we just check all them legs and check every one of them legs and everything, make sure nothing is wrong, nothing is up with anything. And then from there, we set up the set list of horses to go on the track and train. And then after that, when all that set up, I just have a call with Mark and let him know that everything's okay for the morning before we start training, stuff like that. And then after that, we just go and train. And then at the end of the morning, go through all the horses again, set up my list, and go through every horse with Mark and make sure all the entries and everything's set for the day. Let him know who wasn't so good or who was good and stuff like that. And then with all the help, make sure everybody's happy, good, and nothing's wrong with all the help, and everybody's happy, so that we all can have a good day and go from there.
What's the key to making sure that these horses are staying happy day in and day out, so when they show up in the races, they can run their best race?
That's a question. The key is it could be anything. Just looking after them with the groom, the assistant trainer, the exercise, that everybody working together, making sure that everything goes right with the horse. I mean, working with horses could be one of the toughest things because you never know when you're walking in the morning, something could be up with them.
How about training here at Woodbine? Why is that so effective?
Because it's one of the best places now for Mark to train. I mean, the synthetic track is very easy for horses to train over. And, I mean, a lot of the horses that we have here love it. It's really good for them.
Saturday afternoon, you have 8 horses entered in the Natama, 9 horses entered in the Summer Stakes. You have 3 in the Woodbine Mile, and you have Horse of the Year Fev Rover and the E.P. Taylor. Now, some of those 2-year-olds in the Natama and Summer Stakes are cross-entered. So let's start with the Natama. Tell me what we can look forward to seeing in the Natama from the Casse barn.
Well, out the group of horses that we go in, we mostly like Vixen. We think that she could be a very nice horse. And we also like Little Rain. We think her last race it doesn't look good on paper, but she ran a really good race. So we think that she can probably move up from there. And then the others we have here.
It's tough to keep them all straight when you have that many entered.
I know there's so much of them. We got Tread. She just broke her maiden. And we think she's an improving horse.
How about Winterberry?
Winterberry, I mean, she broke her maiden really well, and we have liked that horse a lot from day one. So we expect a lot from her.
I mentioned that several of these fillies are also cross-entered into the Summer Stakes, which is for the boys. How do you determine which race is best for which horse?
That's a good question. Well, we're going to wait and see, just look at the numbers with all the horses and how the lineup between the races and how we think the cities could run against the boys, and just go from there.
You know, another horse that broke her maiden impressively last time out at Saratoga was And One More Time. Now, she's a long shot. She's 20-1 in the Natama. Tell me about her.
Well, since she came to us, she's been just moving forward. Mark really like her a lot. Mark said, David says this horse probably could be the Natama winner. So when you send it there, her first work over the turf was just okay, but then her second work was really, really impressive. So we're happy to have her here, and we think that she could probably win that race.
You know, the first name you mentioned when I asked you about the Natama was Vixen, and you said Mark really thinks that she could be something special. What's she shown you that has caught your eye?
Yeah, since she came here, she's been training lights out. I mean, yeah, she just looked like a horse that's really ready to move up in the stake race like the Natama.
Well, I want to get to the Summer Stakes in just a minute, but you in the E.P. Taylor, you're going to get a rematch with Moira with the reigning Horse of the Year, Fev Rover. and Fev Rover, the defending champion in that EP Taylor Stakes. Tell me about what you're seeing from Fev Rover coming into this event.
She came back from that race that Myra beat her in, and, I mean, on that day, Myra was the better horse. I mean, those two horses could beat one another at any given time, But Fev Rover has been back here, and she's been training really well, so we expect her to run well again, and we expect the race to come down between the two horses again.
Do you see anything different, maybe even a little bit more improved now that she comes back to this race as a 6-year-old from what you saw in her last year when she won it?
I wouldn't say that. I think that she's probably right now at the same level when she won that race last year.
That was good enough.
Yes, and that was good enough. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty cool when you get these kind of rivalries, right? And Moira and Fev Rover have squared off and traded punches many times in their career, and it's really neat when you get it's not affirmed in Alydar level, but these rivalries in racing are really cool, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're two very special horses, and it's nice to see two of them going down in a battle like that all the time.
David Adams with me here on the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires. How about the summer stakes? We're going to look at the boys, but I mentioned that several of the girls were cross-entered. Tell me about some of the 2-year-old boys that are coming from the Casse barn.
Okay, well, we have Dream On, and I mean, him, I really like him a lot. And we think that from the last start, he ran second. I mean, the horse in the race that beat him the last time, he's coming back in that race, but we think that this horse, that Dream On, can move on and probably stepped up and had a notch and win that race. Yeah, I mean, the summer, since that race, he has trained really, really well.
All right, one more for you, David. We're down to the Woodbine Mile, and I mentioned that you have 3 horses entered in that race. Tell me more about them.
Okay, well, Philo is Philo. Everybody knows Philo. He's just a tough old horse, and he just loves Woodbine racetrack, and he gives you everything when he's here. Now, my boy Prince, I mean, we think that he could be a really good miler, and he's been training really, really good. So we hope that he, with the allowance points that he's getting from the older horses, that he ran a really good race. And then can't really tell you much about Win for the Money because we just came into a brand from our Royale stable out in Kentucky. So he's been training well since we get him here. But
my boy Prince is a horse that is extremely familiar with Woodbine. He's no stranger to running here, and you said getting a weight allowance from the older horses. That's always something to consider when people are handicapping too, right?
Yes, it's a lot to consider, especially being a trio. I mean, facing the older horses. I mean, he probably got a lot to prove against the older horses, but we think he's going to run a good race.
Yep, second in the King's Plate last time out back on August 23rd. Now he steps up running against Open Company, running in a Grade 1, and he's carrying the hopes of all the local horses and connections in Canada. No pressure there, right, David?
No, not at all. But if it's one horse that could do it, he could. He's all hurt.
Yeah, well, listen, it's going to be a huge Saturday afternoon. I really appreciate you taking a little time from Barbados to Woodbine to the Winner's Circle. You've done that many times, and all the best. Hope you get back to the Winner's Circle a few more times Saturday afternoon.
Thank you, Mike. Enjoying the interview.
David Adams here on HRRN. When I come back, I'll talk more about Woodbine and what's coming up Saturday afternoon. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
After an exhilarating day at the Breeders' Cup races on Friday, November 1st, don't miss Thoroughbred Charities of America's Bash at the Breeders' Cup at the Del Mar Hilton, directly across the street from the racetrack. Immerse yourself in a night of savory bites, handcrafted cocktails, live music, and an opportunity to bid on extraordinary items, all in support of Thoroughbred Charities of America. For tickets and more information, please visit tca.org.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
10 Mile looms the danger down the centre. 10 Mara's coming home fast. Vodka with a twist, can't find any more. 10 Mara's catching her inch for inch. They come down to the wire, and Tenma has won it.
Tenma, the daughter of Darley Stallion Nyquist, remained perfect, running her record to 2 for 2 to begin that young career, and that victory coming in the Del Mar Debutante this past weekend. It's a win that makes her your Darley taking the reins Performer of the Week. Darley Stallion Nyquist has just equaled Danzig's all-time record of 9 Grade 1 juveniles from his first 5 crops with Tenma's win in the Grade 1 Del Mar Debutante. Nyquist is also level with Gunrunner with the most Grade 1 winners this year, currently with 4. Just imagine. Learn more about Nyquist and all the Darley Stallions by visiting darleyamerica.com.
This is Woodbine Week on HRRN.
Experience the thrill of world-class racing now at Toronto's Woodbine Racetrack. With live racing Thursday through Sunday, you can enjoy the best turf racing around with daily action over the famed E.P. Taylor Turf Course. Join us this Saturday, September 14th, for 3 Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Win and You're In races with the Woodbine Mile, the Talma Stakes, and Summer Stakes. For wagering updates, handicapping tips, racing news, and more, visit woodbine.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Fev Rover brings him to the top of the stretch in the Beverly D, but company is coming. Here's Moira on the outside trying to charge after Fev Rover. Nadette going to swing toward the center of the course for the final furlong. Fev Rover on the inside of Moira. They're racing well apart. Nadette going to try to split the two of them. Moira on the outside, Fev Rover on the inside. These two for a final 16th of a mile. Fev Rover, Moira. Nadette back in third. It's Moira and Fev Rover. Moira just in front. Moira, I think she got it. Fev Rover was right there in the photo. Then came Nisi Marie Nadette, who photoed third.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you live from Woodbine this morning, getting set for a huge afternoon of thoroughbred racing. If you're just joining us, 6 graded stakes scheduled for later today. 4 of those are Grade 1s. 3 of those are win and you're in for different Breeders' Cup divisions. The E.P. Taylor is not a win and you're in, but it is a fantastic race. We have Moira, the horse of the year from 2 years ago, squaring off with the reigning horse of the year, Fev Rover. Moira, 7-5 on the morning line, will be ridden by jockey Rafael Hernandez, who is with me now. He was not aboard for that win in the Beverly D. That was Jose Ortiz, but he will be aboard this afternoon, and he knows this filly very, very well. Rafael, thanks for being here, my man.
Thank you for enjoying.
Yeah, excited to talk to you about Moira and all of the other runners that you're going to be aboard. You have mounts in all 6 graded stakes races. We're sitting here on the backside right now in the track kitchen. You've been out working horses all morning. How the heck do you do it, man?
We saw you got the John Blatt in we got the sighting, it's about love.
Yeah.
This is a love. What I do is a love about horses, love about the community racing. It gives you energy to do everything.
I'm going to brag on you for just a minute. You have ridden 3,157 winners coming into today.
Wow.
And you're still out here in the mornings working hard, getting on horses, and doing your thing. And then you're going to head over to the jocks room and get ready to ride all of these races today. Walk me through your normal day. What's it like for Rafael Hernandez?
Just wake up and come in the backside, see some people's friends, and get on some horses, feel the horses, what I'm going to run in next week or a couple of weeks after, and get to know the horses and what he like, what he don't like, and then after that, just go back to the jocks room, get a little barefoot, and studying all the races and prepare mentally and physical, do the stretch, running a little bit, and go back to the horses.
Yeah, you have mounts in almost every race today. Do you prefer it that way as opposed to maybe just coming to a racetrack and only riding a couple of big races later in the day and kind of sitting around throughout the day?
No,
What's better for you?
I like to run a lot. Yeah. I like to, like you say, it's better, right? And I like to warm her up.
Yeah, and I'm sure it helps you kind of stay loose and I would imagine if you're riding in a big race later in the day and it's the only mount that you have that day, you sit around and your mind kind of starts wandering, right? And
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you need to start warming up, before the races. So all these races keep your body active for any occasion happen during the race.
You sounded a little surprised when I said 3,157 winners. You didn't know you had that many?
No, I know. I just come up with the 3,000 last year. You know, I don't keep counting too much until you get close to, right?
Yeah.
And it start counting down. But, you know, thank you for that. It's a lot, but, you know, we're working for that.
What was it like getting number 3,000?
Oh, man, it's unbelievable. You know, my cousin, my uncle, he used to be a rider. And when I started riding, he told me, you have to beat me. You have to win more races than me. I think he won at 3,200 something, so I'm almost there.
You're closing in on him, right?
Yeah.
That's great. And you hail from Puerto Rico, right? My dear friend John Velasquez, one of the great Puerto Rican jockeys of all time, Angel Cordero Jr. What is it about riders that come from Puerto Rico here to the States? They're good.
Well, we got a good school, right?
Yeah.
We got a good school there in Puerto Rico, and teachers, they help you a lot. And we got it, like you say, like Johnny, you know, he's a nice guy, and you ask him anything, he's going to give you the best advice, you know. Until today, I saw him the other day in Delaware, and we're just talking about racing and everything, what I can do to get better, and he always give you good advice, you know. Somebody is like a role model.
Yeah. What would somebody like John Velasquez tell you, a guy who's ridden more than 3,000 winners? What would he tell you? How could you get better? You can still get better?
Oh, yeah. Every day. Every horse is different. Every race is different, right? We make a lot of mistakes. We have to learn from that mistake. So when the occasion come again, you know how to react in that moment. So, you know, like I said, he's a role model. He wins a ton of races, you know. I'm nothing what he do it, you know.
Yeah. How do you describe your riding style and your approach to riding?
I can be relaxed and good finish. You know, I like to be like me, Pat, you know, and give a good finish to the horse. I like to see around what's happened during the race and then, you know, try to get everything from the horse.
Let's talk about Moira for a minute. We led with her. We heard that call of her winning the Beverly D. Again, that was Jose Ortiz who rode her at Colonial Downs in that last start. But you have been aboard Moira in the past, so you know her pretty well. Tell me about what it's like being aboard Moira.
I think she like Puerto Rican hands.
Yeah, Jose Ortiz, another one, right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah, no, that's good to be aboard again with her and regroup the team together here back in Woodbine when we make a lot of big winning with like Oaks, Queen's Play, and now we're back together. That means a lot for me and for the Woodbine too. You know, everybody cheer for her. That's the filly of the Woodbine racetrack right now. So she's gonna give you hard, and I'm gonna give you my best today. Kevin prepared for this a long time. You know, he's the best one to know how to train this filly.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
What does she like to ride? Is she push button?
Yeah, actually, she relaxes. She puts herself in a good position where she want to be. Just let him be there. Don't fight with her. She going to tell you when it's time to go. When it's time to go, she going to tell you. You're going to feel it in your hands when it's time to go, and just let him do it, and she do the rest. She's so nice.
She has this cool rivalry now with Fev Rover, and I think that's so neat because it's the last two Canadian horses of the year, and they're both so good. When you come to the EP Taylor today, will you always know during the running of the race where Fev Rover is?
Yeah, you have to know where everybody at, right? With the pace, you have to know, try to looking around where everybody at, so set out you pace and try to make the run, you know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you're always looking for the good horses. And, like you say, Fort River is one of the good horses. You have to keep watching him.
Yeah, and you have a great relationship with Kevin Attard, the trainer of Moira. You also have a great relationship with Mark Casse, who trains Fev Rover. So it's got to be an interesting position for you because you ride for both of those guys, but you got to ride the horse you're on this day, right?
Yeah, that's right. No, that's no matter. For any training I ride, I just do the best for them and for me and the horse, right? It's no matter for who you ride that day, you have to do the best for them.
You know, earlier we played the call of Etoile winning the EP Taylor back in 2020. That was your other win in that race. What do you remember about that day?
That was a nice memory with Chad Brown. He gave me the opportunity to run that filly in the race, and we come on winner, right? I rode it before, and we finished second in the mile and a quarter. And then he come back and he tell me, Rafi, just do the same thing that you did the last time. It's better right now, so you're gonna see how better it is. So, and he come up, we show up that day, and we do exactly the same race, and he just, exploding the stretching.
Yeah.
We get the great wine.
I love it. Talking with jockey Rafael Hernandez here on the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Rafael, I mentioned you're in almost every race, but you're in all 6 of the greatest stakes races. So let's start with the Natama. You ride for Mark Casse there. The horse's name is And One More Time. What can you tell me about And One More Time?
Oh, I think it's a big field today, right? Everybody, so it's the main thing. Just get a good position, get out of the gate good. Don't get stuck in behind the horses. They're going to come back and try to give you the best trip you can, and the rest on the horse,
Yeah, and it's your first time riding And One More Time. So when you're going to ride a horse for the first time, especially in a big race like this, a Grade 1, what's your preparation like and your approach to getting ready?
I just let the trainer tell me a little bit things about the horse, what he like, what he don't like, where he like to be seated, if he don't like to be rushed early, or he like to be wait a little bit, in the stretch. So all that, I just let him. He tell me what he like, what he don't like, and where he like to be on what spot he like to be on the race.
Do you spend much time watching replays?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
I watch all the replays. The horse I'm gonna ride and the horse against I'm going to ride.
We talked about John Velasquez, and Johnny, I say this quite often when I interview different jockeys, but I remember him telling me one time how he has that plan A, a plan B, a plan C when he goes into the starting gate.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
then you just hope you don't have to get to your plan D, right? Because that means everything went wrong at the start.
That's right.
And you have to adjust, right? So how about for you?
Yeah, the same thing. Everybody try to. We study all the races. We got what plan we set up with the trainer, and we set up one plan. That plan don't go, it's up to you. You're the driver, so you try to go to plan B and plan C. And you hopefully everything work good.
Yeah. Hey, how often do you have to adjust your plan when you come out of the gate?
Almost every time.
Really?
Yeah, almost every time. You don't know what the opponents are gonna do, right?
Yeah.
So you got something in mind. They got different thing in mind. They're animals, still animals, right? It's hard to control. So you have to deal with some issue during the race.
Yep. We were talking about the Natama. You won the Natama with Last Call for Kevin Attard a couple of years ago in 2022. Right. That was a pretty cool race too, huh?
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah. Rafael Hernandez here on HRRN. Okay, so we're talking about the plan and how it adjusts when you come out of the starting gate. You said that you like to get horses to relax and then finish. How do you do it? How do you get a horse to relax during a race?
One thing Johnny told me one day, try don't move too much in the horse. You don't move too much in the horse, you have to feel like once, just be with the horse. Less you move, less stretch you give it a horse. And because these horses, they just wait for something to explode, to go, right?
Yeah.
They wait for your signal and go. So less you move your hand and everything. When you move, it's for going. So I try to do that.
Stay still.
Stay still. They're chilly with the horse. Give it a confidence in the horse. Be relaxed. And just when it's time to go, just start moving.
Is there a different approach to getting a speed horse, a front runner, to relax as opposed to a closer? Are they two different approaches, or is it all the same?
No, they're different. The speed horses, they're natural speed, and they're training for speed. So they know when they break the gate, you just hustle a little bit, it's going to be 1, 2, 3 for sure. So slow horses come from behind, they like that. They got one pace, they come from behind, they make just one move. You just go with the flow, you ride the wave, and the trainer tell you that. That's why we come in the morning, train the horse, and know the horse, so when it comes to the races, you don't get surprises.
Yep. Put in the words for me. For somebody like myself that's never ridden in a race before, right? You start coming through the stretch, you're on a horse that comes from behind, and you can feel the horse picking it up, and you got horses in front of you, and you're trying to run them down, and all of a sudden, your horse just sprouts wings, as Trevor Denman likes to say, right? And you take off. What's that feel like underneath you? What's that moment like for a jockey?
Oh, wow. It's unbelievable, really. You have to, like you say, you never run him, but you have to be on the top. It's unbelievable feeling when you ask him your horse and he give you everything what you ask him, and he pick it up and keep pick it up, and you see just pass horses. It's a good feeling. You don't even feel how fast you go.
Really?
Yeah, you don't even feel how
You
fast
don't even
you go.
know.
No. The adrenaline, they don't let you feel that.
Do you
know
hear,
you go
do you
fast.
hear the crowd cheering?
Yeah, you hear the crowd a little bit, but in one moment, just stop. Everything is only get there first, cross. You see the wire, and your horse. It's you and your horse, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Mike Smith telling me that once when we talked about his wins in the Kentucky Derby. And he said there's this moment when you hit the finish line, and there's 150,000 people screaming, but there's this moment when you hit the line, and it's silence.
Yeah,
and
everything's quiet.
it's a brief second, and then, boom, it just explodes.
Yeah, like a Queen's play, you see all the crowd, you broke out of the gate, you heard the people, maybe it's for the first furlong. After that, even you go in front of everybody, everything is silent. It's the body, the mental is so much concentrate in what you're doing, and you block everything sounds around you. You just only focus what you have to do, and like you say, you turn for home, you don't even hear nobody. Until you pass away, I think you release all that adrenaline, and then you start hear everybody. But it's only about you and the race and the horse. That's it.
Your horse in the Summer Stakes today, you know him well. You've been aboard him for each of his 2 starts. DeWolf for Kevin Attard.
Yes.
What have you learned about him?
I like that horse. He got a good strike. I like him for the first time I get on in the morning. I say, Kevin, I like this one, So he let me riding, and I like the Wolf. I think he's going to show up today good. I like him. He been training good and everything, so he should show up today.
And he's a young horse. He's relaxed for you both times that you've been aboard him. That's a good sign, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Young horses can be a little more challenging because
yeah,
they just
right.
want to run, right?
They're going to run.
Like teaching a young child, right, to play a sport or to ride a bicycle, right? You're the coach. You got to work with these young horses.
That's right. That's why Kevin job. The Kevin do my job easier when he teaches the horses like that. He's great about that.
How about the Woodbine Mile? Niagara Skyline is the horse you'll be aboard there.
Yeah, it's a tough race. All the big races is tough. We'll see how the pace set up. My horse, he got one pace. So I think we're going to be close to the pace today and let him be him, right? So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, he has no idea that the morning line on him is 20-1.
Yeah,
right?
the horse don't know.
The horse doesn't know.
The horse doesn't know.
Right?
Yep.
The horse has no idea.
No.
Rafael, listen, man, it has been so much fun to catch up with you and to get a chance to visit here and talk some racing and riding strategies and then look at some of these horses. So I really appreciate it, man. Best of luck this afternoon, and safe trip every time you get a leg up.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the audience, listening to us today, and thank you for the invitation. I appreciate that.
From Puerto Rico to the winner's circle, he knows how to do it better than anybody. I appreciate it. Well, I don't know. Johnny V's a little ahead of you.
Oh, yeah, he's the master.
He is the master.
He's just a role model. I just follow his track, right?
Well, keep doing it, man.
Yeah.
It's working. Keep it going.
All right.
Appreciate it, buddy. All right, coming up next, you're going to hear from another pretty good horsewoman. That is Hall of Famer Josie Carroll. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Scott Mallory is once again offering a strong group of yearlings in books 2 through 6 at the upcoming Keeneland September yearling sale. With proven sires such as Curlin, Blame, American Pharaoh, and Liam's Map, as well as hot new sires such as Yopon, Bo Liam, Tacitus, and Charlatan. The Scott Mallory consignment has something for everyone with 48 offerings, books 2 through 6 at Keeneland September. Look for future Scott Mallory consignments at Lone Star Park's TTA sale, Fasig-Tipton Timonium, and the Fasig-Tipton Kentucky October sale.
Churchill Downs 14-day September meet runs September 12th through the 29th. September meet starts the kickoff to the road to the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks with the $300,000 Grade 3 Iroquois and the $300,000 Grade 3 Pocahontas. Both races for 2-year-olds will be run on September 14th. The meet will also showcase many horses preparing for the Breeders' Cup in November, with 11 stakes worth more than $3.5 million in purses, which are powered by the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund. You are not going to want to miss the September meet at Churchill Downs. For tickets and more information, visit churchilldowns.com.
In 1993, Dr. John West showed that EIPH occurs during exercise when the blood vessels in the lung rupture. This is due to stress caused by high blood pressures on the inside of the vessel and strong suction forces on the outside. Only flare strips and Lasix, used together or alone, have ever been clinically proven to reduce EIPH. Lasix works by reducing the high internal vessel pressure, and flare strips work by reducing the suction forces on the outside of the vessel. See the science at flarestrips.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Spins are the leader. McAvoy chipping away on the outsides. Run into second spot and is coming on. McAvoy down the outside after Spinzar. Spinzar the leader. McAvoy giving chase, and now Roscar in the center. Spinzar trying to hang on. McAvoy on the outside, and also battling away is Roscar, and it's Spinzar on the inside. Spinzar from McAvoy, and it's 1,000 wins for Josie Carroll with Spinzar. Appropriate for Luis Contreras and Josie to team up for that one. McAvoy second, Roscar third, and fourth Exude, and 2:5:20 the final time.
Robert Geller with the call of a very special moment for my next guest, Hall of Fame trainer Josie Carroll. You heard him say win number 1,000 in her spectacular career. She's currently up to 1,007, so well on her way to 2,000 career victories. But that one was special for her, and I have the distinct privilege of sitting down and welcoming Josie to the program now. Josie, I really appreciate it, and congratulations on that win.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
We're listening to the call. And you're sitting here, and I can see you kind of smile a little bit. What was going through your mind?
You know, it's funny. We sat at $9.99 for 3 weeks. And everybody was anticipating that, so it was almost a relief when it finally came. But certainly it was very gratifying. It was nice to have Luis Contreras on the horse. He won many of those races for me. The groom's been with me 27 years, so it was such a team effort, the whole thing, and to have everybody together was very nice for that day.
Yeah, it makes it even more special, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Luis Contreras, that relationship has been successful for a long time. How come?
Luis has a tremendous work ethic. He has a great clock in his head. He's a big asset to me in the mornings. Not afraid to speak his mind, tell you what he's feeling on a horse, and we put it to good use in the afternoons.
Yeah, yeah. You think about all of these victories and all the great moments that you've had in your career. What are a couple of the ones that kind of stand out to you? Maybe a couple of the wins or a couple of the horses that, for whatever reason, Josie Carroll is never going to forget.
Obviously, the first Queen Fleet win.
Yeah.
And it wasn't so much the moment Edenwald crossing the wire as when he walked back and the crowd started to clap, and it was like a wave as they applauded him walking back, and it was I call it a goosebump moment. It was such a pure appreciation of the horse and the sport that was a really moving moment for me.
What was the moment that led you to say, I want to train horses for a living?
You know, always been interested in horses. Followed racing since I was a little girl. Nothing in the family to do with it, but just used to pick up the newspaper and bet my horses every weekend from the time I was little.
Really?
Yeah. And then decided to go into some kind of career in horses. Humber College was up the street from Woodbine, so I took an equine course there, and they put us on field placement here, and I never left.
No kidding. Wow.
Absolutely.
So this was all you ever wanted to do?
I've been very fortunate to have always known where I wanted to be.
Yeah, yeah. What else would Josie Carroll be doing if you weren't training horses?
I have no idea.
Do you have any other hobbies or interests outside of racing?
You know, it's a pretty time-consuming lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know, I'm an avid reader. I spend a lot of time walking the dogs, but you know, we like to get down to the Leaf games, obviously, and
yeah,
you know, watch sports. Other than that, it's pretty much horses.
When you first got started, could you ever imagine we'd be sitting here today talking about having trained 1,000 career winners?
Not in a million years. No.
Special, though, isn't it?
It's very special. It's very gratifying to know that, I selected something that I really wanted to do and set myself out to be successful at it. And, that 1,000 was just a really good moment.
So if you can win today's Woodbine Mile with Play Me a Tune, it will be your first win in that particular Grade 1 race. John Velasquez is going to get a leg up. He's won the Woodbine Mile more than any jockey in history. He has 5 wins in that race, looking to make it number 6 this afternoon. Tell me about Play Me a Tune.
Play Me a Tune, obviously a very lightly raced horse. Did not even run at 3, and we had liked him very much, but he had a racing injury, and we had to stop on him. The owners were tremendously patient. And then when we brought him back, he just sort of exploded on the scene. He won his first 2 pretty impressively. Had a little bit of trouble in the first stake we put him in, got carried out on the turn, and still was closing strongly on a very nice horse that was a champion here last year. Off of that, we really thought this horse deserved a shot. He wants to go a little further than he's been going. Hopefully the mile suits him well. He breezed on the turf and seemed to handle it, so it seemed like the day to take a shot.
Yeah, and he draws the inside post position, going 1 mile on the turf course here at Woodbine. Talk about that. Good, bad, indifferent?
I think normally the 1 hole would bother me, but we have this beautiful wide turf course that tends to open up. And we have John Velasquez. I don't need to see anything more.
Yeah, you have the right guy in the saddle, right? When you give a leg up to a guy like Johnny, a Hall of Famer, I'm going to imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't need to give him very much instruction, right?
No, all I'll give him is a little background if there's anything quirky about the horse or anything he needs to know. Other than that, he knows what to do.
If you could write the script for the ideal trip for Play Me a Tune this afternoon, what would it look like?
I think we'd probably break in the second path, get off the fence a little bit, and stalk the speed, and hopefully close and win. Basically, writing the script, the only thing that matters is the wire. We just want to win.
It doesn't matter how it happens, right?
Absolutely.
So I was just talking to Rafael Hernandez in the previous segment, and we were talking about Johnny's approach with having his plan A, B, C, and then I asked Rafael if he did it the same way, and he says yes. And I said, well, how often do you have to get rid of plan A, B, and C when the gates open? He said, almost every race. It rarely goes according to plan, right?
No, that's absolutely true, and that's where these key veteran riders are so important. They've seen every scenario unfold, and they know how to react. They've done it well. They've made their mistakes. They read a race so well.
When you lead 40-5 over for the summer stakes, we're kind of working backwards here, but when you bring 40-5 over for the summer, you'll be looking for a second victory in that summer stakes after winning it with Bachelor Blues back in 2003. Tell me about 40-5.
This is a horse that seems to be getting better with every race, training better anyway with every race. He's a big, strong horse, a lot of power there. Little inexperienced still. Both his races, he's been a little bit lucky. He's still figuring it all out. But again, it's an important race. He's a nice horse. We're going to give it a try.
Is there anything, Josie, that you can do in the mornings with a young horse like this you can't give them more racing experience, but are there ways you can kind of simulate what he's going to experience on race day in the mornings?
Sure. All of our horses at some time are in some company to breeze, or they get in behind horses to get a little dirt in their face. They're, a lot of the smaller things. You make sure they're leaving the gate properly, that you have a horse that knows how to leave there. That's pretty key. Even if you don't want to be on the lead, you have to leave the gate and be able to get position. I think that's the very root of the start of your race.
How long does it take you to know if you get a young horse that can run, or if maybe they're not going to be as fast as you hope they are?
Oddly, sometimes right away. First breeze, you say, whoa. And then some of them just take longer to come around. You're looking at them saying, he's okay. And then maybe you breeze them out of the gate and you go, wow.
Yeah. All of a sudden it just clicks, right?
Sometimes it just clicks. Sometimes they race a couple of times and they're average. And then, that turns on, that switch turns on, and you turn out with a nice horse.
Have you ever had a horse that just truly, I'm sure you have, that just truly surprised you? You started working with him, and you're like, I don't know, maybe, maybe not. Then all of a sudden, something clicks, and they went on to have a really nice career.
Yeah, there's been a few over the years.
Yeah, I'm sure it happens quite often. The Ontario Matron Stakes is a Grade 3 today. That's race number 6. You have a couple of horses in there with Sabatini and with Ephrata. Tell me about those two.
Sabatini, 3-year-old, taking on older mares, of course. A bit of a challenge for her. Her 2-turn race here at Woodbine, she seemed to really relish and galloped out strongly, got a good number off of it. So we were looking for a 2-turn race for her. The matron doesn't usually come up this stiff.
Yeah.
It's a tougher race than you would typically see. But she's a very honest filly. If you look at her form, she never fails to show up. So we're going to give it a try.
All right, we'll find out what happens. That Ontario Matron race number 6 this afternoon, the Summer Stakes race number 9, and, of course, the Woodbine Mile, the big one, is race number 10. I say big one, but there's 4 Grade 1 races, 3 win-and-you're-in races on the card today. How cool is it to be part of days like this, Josie?
Days like this are so much fun if you're a racing fan. You know, not just your own horses, but getting to watch all these good horses. I mean, it's enjoyable just to go down to the paddock and watch them walk around. It even at this stage, it still gives you that rush to see those good horses.
You have horses in the races before those stakes races too. Races 2, race 3, and then you have to wait until race 6, the Matron, to race again. So in between race 3 and race 6, what are you doing? Are you just walking around as a fan? Do you have to get back to the barn and get ready? How do you do that?
So that varies day to day. Today I don't think we'll have a lot of time in between to get back and forth, so I'll probably just go down and look at some of the other horses in between those races and then go back to the barn between the 6th and the big race.
Well, very few people have done it as well as Josie Carroll. That's why she's in the Hall of Fame. I'll ask you one final question before I let you go. The day that you received news that you were going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, what was that day like?
It was a little overwhelming. It wasn't really expected, and it just made me feel very, very good about it all, obviously.
Well, you should. You've done it the right way for a long time. Josie, I appreciate the visit this morning. I know it's a busy morning. I'll let you go. All the best this afternoon and going forward, too. All the best with all your runners. And here's to number 2,000. Let's go get it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
All right, Josie Carroll here on HRRN. Coming up next, I'll take a look at a few historical dates in racing history as they apply to this weekend, and I'll tell you what's ahead in hour number 3. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to Dennis Melvin's house. It's time for the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course. Sticking to healthy habits in this kitchen is going to take focus and determination, but it can be done, JB.
He's already entered the snack part of the course, and he's eyeballing a jar of chocolate candy.
That is tempting right off the start.
Uh-oh, he's reaching, Bill, but he pushes it away.
Great stiff arm.
He's approaching a plate of delicious-looking iced cookies.
Oh, Dennis, you only want one of those.
He blows right by him for the apple.
Oh, the fridge. It's make or break time, JB.
He stares down some rich-looking treats. Uh-oh, looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle, and shuts the door with his elbow in record time.
Unbelievable move. I gotta see that again.
And he's out. He even turned off the light.
That's the way you execute a midnight snack run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
All over America, people are taking the National Radon Test. Have you heard of radon?
Is that a gas?
Is it something that comes up out the ground or something?
It's like poison gas. Something dangerous that you're supposed to check on to make sure it's not in your home.
Now it's your turn. Answer true or false. Radon is a radioactive gas. True, radon is a radioactive gas. True or false? The Office of the Surgeon General recommends that all homes be tested for radon. True, your home should be tested.
I didn't know that, no.
True or false, radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer. True.
True, I didn't know that.
Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer. Answer true or false. Homes with radon problems can be fixed. True. Homes with radon problems can be fixed.
So what do you do about it? I'm going to dial the number and call.
1-800-SOS-RADON.
If I don't take care of it, nobody else will.
Keep your family safe from radon. Call now.
1-800-SOS-RADON.
Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers. You can always find people who are helping. Thank you to all the first responders who put their lives in danger to help us when my brothers and sisters need them. We look out for the helpers because they look out for us. Thank you, first responders! Thank you, first responders!
Learn how you can help first responders by texting BRAVE to 24365.
Hey, this is Bobby Newman. Join me every Friday afternoon to dive deep into handicapping the races. We'll cover the live action from some of the biggest tracks in the country, talk to some of the major players in the game, and hopefully make a little money along the way. You can also call the show to share your opinions, ask a question or two, or maybe just vent about some bad beats. It's Betting with Bobby every Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern on Sirius 162, XM 207, online channel 999, or streaming live at horseracingradio.net.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires, winding down hour number 2, but that doesn't mean we are done here at Woodbine this morning. Plenty of conversation coming up in the third hour of the program, including the TwinSpires Triple Play with James Scully that will kick off the third hour, and Dale and Tim coming up at 10:30 Eastern with I Ask, They Answer. Update on the poll question for you before we get to a couple of dates in racing history. Asking you, who is your pick to win today's Woodbine Mile? And again, the favorite, Naval Power, still in front. 60% of you saying it is going to be the favorite over Filo di Ariana and Big Rock, both of those coming in with 20%. Nobody saying it's going to be someone other than the top three. So you're thinking it's going to be a chalky renewal of the Woodbine Mile. You can continue to keep those votes coming at HRRN on X and Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. And if you don't do social media, email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, and let me know your thoughts. Time now for a couple dates in racing history. We'll start with yesterday. It was September 13th, 1974, that legendary trainer D. Wayne Lucas won his first Thoroughbred Stakes race. He did that by saddling his own 3-year-old colt, Harbor Hauler, in the second division of the Foothill Stakes at Pomona. He earned $6,312. He's done a little better than that over the years. Well done, D. Wayne. Happy anniversary to the Hall of Famer. Yesterday, also the anniversary of jockey Pat Day winning 8 of the 9 races at Arlington, and in his only loss, Day finished second on Wayne's by George. That was September 13th, 1989. 8 of 9. Well done. And one more for you. September 14th, 1853. A little difference there. 1853, West Australian won the St. Leger Stakes by 3 lengths and became England's first Triple Crown winner. Those are dates in racing history as they apply to this weekend in thoroughbred racing. Fun 2 hours of the program in the books. One more to go. And I told you the third hour loaded with more content, but if you missed the first 2 hours, you can check out the podcast, horseracingradio.net. You can do that, too, on every podcast platform. My conversation moments ago with Josie Carroll. You heard from jockey Rafael Hernandez, David Adams, the longtime assistant to Mark Casse. Richard Rigney talking about his 2 contenders in the juvenile stakes at Churchill this afternoon. And then Woodbine CEO Michael Copeland was with me to kick off the program at 8:15. Again, if you missed any of that, check out the podcast and listen at your leisure. In terms of what we're going to see here this afternoon, I mentioned all the greatest stakes racing action. I mentioned the win and you're in races for the Breeders' Cup. The stakes extremely high. That tremendous showdown between Moira and Fev Rover in the E.P. Taylor Stakes. The last 2 Canadian horses of the year set to square off. That in itself is worth the price of admission, but there are several great wagering opportunities later today. Again, the conditions going to be perfect. Beautiful blue skies, bright sunshine, firm turf, and of course the synthetic track is in impeccable shape. So all kinds of action for you if you're playing the races. If you can't be here at Woodbine, of course, you can bet the races at TwinSpires. Make sure you're doing that as well with our partners at TwinSpires. I can't wait for that Moira Fev Rover showdown. That is going to be so cool. This is not the first time that they have squared off. They have done this many, many times, and every single time it ends up in an epic type of race. And, of course, they were just a nostril apart last time in the Beverly D. We'll see if Fev Rover can turn the tables on her rival. That is going to be really, really cool to watch. 2 hours down, 1 to go here on the Equine Forum. If your local station is leaving us at this time, you can continue listening to the third hour of the program on SiriusXM satellite radio. You can do that, too, on our website, horseracingradio.net, with our live streaming. James Scully kicks it off with the TwinSpires triple play. Kurt Becker has that incredible Stroll Through Racing History where he tells you about the origin of today's Woodbine Mile. And then Dale and Tim with I Ask, They Answer. To wrap up the show here today, that comes your way at 10:30 Eastern. All of that still ahead on a very busy hour here on the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires. Back with more right after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Into the stretch in the summer, and Harlan's Harmony the Crack, joined by Conquest Fahrenheit, who's run at the front. Good Samaritan right down the outside, gobbling them up, and Good Samaritan has gone on by very easily. Good Samaritan charging clear. Conquest Fahrenheit in second. Slightly Check was just a slam, but from the back, and Joel Rosario sending Good Samaritan to the Breeders' Cup.
Greenpeace roaring down the center of the course. I'm a Dreamer trying to hold on. Greenpeace, Miss Keller, 3 of them in a heart-stopping finish. Picture time. Was it Miss Keller, I'm a Dreamer, or Greenpeace in a 3-horse win photo in the E.P. Taylor Stakes?
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Right down the center of the track, coming on is Gamble's Ghost, but are they going to get Catch a Glimpse? They go to the final furlong, and she's just rolling and rolling with enormous strides. Oh, she's long gone, and Catch a Glimpse is going to absolutely demolish them. And Catch a Glimpse wins the Natalma hands down.
Wise Dan is next to the rail. Cityscape in an all-out drive on the outside. Worthad could not stay with the front two, and it's Wise Dan under a hand ride. Now Johnny Velasquez shows him the whip, last 16th of a mile. Wise Dan, a jaw-dropping performance to win the Rico Woodbine Mile.
Now here's Mike Penna.
2/3 of the way home on today's Equine Forum. Welcome back to the third hour of the show. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch. Happy to have you along for the ride. And what a ride it's been over the first 2 hours of the program. If you missed any portion of the conversations that I brought your way, looking ahead to today's 4 Grade 1 races at Woodbine, and those 3 win in your ends, and of course the Iroquois and Pocahontas down at Churchill Downs. All you have to do, head back to the website, horseracingradio.net. You can listen to the podcast whenever you have some time, and you can do that too on every podcast platform. Hour 3, loaded with more content, including James Scully with the TwinSpires triple play. That begins the hour momentarily. Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History coming up at 10:20, and at 10:30, I Ask, They Answer with Dale and Tim. Plenty of things to get to with them as well on this Saturday morning. Without further ado, it is time for the TwinSpires triple play. James, good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Mike. Glad to be on with you on this weekend. We at TwinSpires really looking forward to this opening Saturday program at Churchill, as well as the Woodbine Mile program. Got some good promotions for Woodbine, Churchill. Los Alamitos gets going this weekend, and other thoroughbred and harness tracks. Make sure you go to the offers page at TwinSpires.com and opt in. And then we also are doing tournaments as well. We have some good tournaments this weekend for Churchill Downs, and we have other tracks as well available. So if you go to the tournaments tab at TwinSpires.com, you can see the detail and schedule for the upcoming tournaments we have.
All right, all kinds of action at TwinSpires, and don't forget you can play all 3 of the races that James is going to talk about here in just a second at TwinSpires, and you can play every race you're going to bet this weekend with TwinSpires. We encourage you to do so. James, let's kick it off with the Pocahontas Stakes at Churchill. That is race number 8. We will then talk about the Iroquois and the Woodbine Mile. The Pocahontas, full field of 2-year-old fillies, 1 mile on the main track. How'd you see that one?
Yeah, this is a race where you get a lot of outside speed, and I'll just say this: the Pocahontas, it's a Grade 3 event at a mile, like you said, and it kicks off the road to the 2025 Kentucky Oaks. It's a points qualifier, the top 5 finishers. I think number 13, Kamichi Cat, is going to be the favorite in here with Tyler Gaffleone, but she's going to have to deal with some speed right to her inside on the outside part of the starting gate. Number 9, Strong State, is my top pick. In her debut, she missed the break and really showed a good turn of foot on the far turn, and in the stretch should be a good second to Sherbini, who came back to place in her next 2 stake starts at Saratoga. Her second time out on the opening day, she really broke her maiden impressively. I think the runner-up from that effort will not be swayed at a trouble trip next time out, but she just broke her maiden by 6 lengths for Brad Cox, and it's going to be a stakes-quality filly. And while Strong State showed speed from post 1 that afternoon, I still think her best run style, Mike, is going to be stalking the pace. And when she came back next time out in the spinaway, it was like a 51-day layoff. I think she had trained forwardly. Irad Ortiz Jr. stuck with her. She's a filly trained by Al Stahl Jr. for the first crop of Tom's Detot. And in the spinaway stakes, Strong State broke on top. I mean, she broke on top seemingly like Rachel Alexandra broke on, Torpedo Anna broke on top in the Travers. And that wasn't the game plan. And when Irad Ortiz tried to sort of ease her back into a stalking trip, she just wound up like getting shuffled back. I mean, too far back. It says 8th in the PPs, but she was actually 9th between calls. And I just think she got a little bit lost back there. She was running in spots, even on the far turn when she was advancing past traffic or past rivals. She was tossing her head and still wasn't focused. And it wasn't, even at the top of the lane, it looked like she could easily be 6th or 7th. But she put her head down over the final 3/16 of a mile. I really like how she finished up over the money track to be a clear 4th behind 3 fillies who just really got the jump on her that day. I thought it was a trouble trip that she'll improve upon. I think she'll greatly improve upon the experience. Al Stahl adds blinkers today. Irad Ortiz sticks with her. And I'm looking for a big effort in her second stage. I also like seeing her come back off of this 3-week layoff. I just thought that layoff was too long for her last time off of a really nice maiden win, and I expect her to really move forward off of that spin-away 4th in the Pocahontas today.
Who else do you put her with in here, James? Would it be Stilettos or Kamichi Cat?
I definitely would use Kamichi Cat. I'm a little bit leery of the Stilettos. I wasn't too keen on just the quality of the competition in the Ellis Park Debutante and Juvenile. I could be wrong about that. This number 3, La Cara, Mike, I thought was a very nice maiden winner last time for Casse. So I'm looking at both the 3 and the 13 as horses that I would look to use with number 9, Strong State, in any gimmick wagers.
All right, good odds, too. 5-1 morning line on Strong State. Do you think it stays there, or you think they bet her down?
She was 12-1 on the morning line in the spinaway, and I bet her that day off that maiden win. And she was double digits when I bet her 5 minutes to post, and she drifted down. I think she was 6 minutes going it right before she went off, and then it drifted up to 7 late. But she took a ton of late money, so I'm a little bit worried that she might take money again for the people that were betting her late that day.
It's so interesting. I went back and did a little homework on this race and on the Iroquois, which we'll talk about next. But no horse has come out of the Iroquois to win the Kentucky Derby. However, the Pocahontas has been relatively productive when it comes to winning the Kentucky Oaks. You have like Serengeti Empress, Untappable, or a couple names that come to mind. It's been a productive race. Why do you think that is?
I'm not really sure. Heck, the best filly I've seen running Pocahontas didn't even win the race. That was the runner-up in 2008, went on to win her next 8 starts, including the Preakness and the Kentucky Oaks and the Haskell and the Woodward, because Rachel Alexandra ran second in the 2008 Pocahontas to Sarah Louise.
She turned out to be okay.
Yeah, she turned out to be okay.
Just shows you don't have to win one of these early races if you're going to have success down the road in your career. All right, cool. So it is Strong State, your top pick, number 9 in the Pocahontas. How about the Iroquois, race 10?
Iroquois, I'm gonna take a shot at a price, and I'll just address first off the morning line favorite in here, number 5, Owen Almighty. Listen, Brett, I like that win, it made win first time out did come at Churchill Downs, but none of the horses in that race have come back to win their next start, so I'm a little bit leery. And I thought in that juvenile stakes that number 12, Politically Correct, took a run at him in the stretch, and that horse then sort of ducked into the rail and was out of gas. And Owen Almighty needed more than 13 seconds to run that final eighth of a mile. I just think he's stepping up to face some better horses potentially in this race, and he's vulnerable at short odds. And I do respect number 10, Jonathan's Way. I thought that was an excellent first out maiden win at Saratoga. And number 7, Sandman, I think will be better at 2 turns for Mark Casse, but could potentially still win this race at a 1-turn mile. But I'm going to I landed on number 4, Authentic Strike. And this is a son of first-year sire, Authentic, that sold for $450,000 at the 2-year-old sale earlier this year. And he really trained well, Mike, for his debut. He was working at Keeneland before he made his first start on August 12th at Ellis Park, and he got bet down to odds on that day. And I thought that was a really good race to build upon because Authentic Strike broke from an inside post and didn't break on top, but hustled forward in the lead and really took pressure from the outside all the way down the back stretch and on the far turn. He basically shrugged off that pressure, and then he faced a really strong late run from this Connecticut Troll. I think that runner-up hasn't run back yet, but he's one to keep an eye on. And but Authentic Strike ultimately turned him away as well, and I thought it regained control late, to win by a neck. So I thought that was just a great educational experience for a promising, potentially talented colt. And I thought it was a good race to keep building upon. It came in a 7-furlong distance that is very tricky. And you can see, I mean, he ran like a second faster. I know it wasn't the same day, but it was a day later than Owen Almighty did, winning the Ellis Park Juvenile at 7 furlongs. So I think that was one of the better performances in a maiden race at Ellis Park this summer. And I look for Authentic Strike to run a big race, jumping at States Company in the Iroquois. The one thing about this field, Mike, is, number 1, First Resort. Godolphin announced on Thursday, that he was going to run in today's summer stakes at Woodbine on the turf. So losing him from the Iroquois field really takes some speed out of the lineup. And I think First Resort is going to be quicker from the gate than the horses in post 2 and 3. And he's keeping Lee Saez, who's one of the best finishers in the game. So I look for him to be showing the way into the stretch, and I'm going to look for him to pull an upset win into today's Iroquois.
James Scully bringing it with the value on this Saturday morning here with the TwinSpires triple play. Kicks it off with 5-1 in the Pocahontas Strong State, and then comes back with Authentic Strike at 12-1 in the Iroquois. In case you're wondering, the Pocahontas is set to go at 4:25 Eastern. The Iroquois, as race 10, will be 5:29 Eastern. And James, that brings us to the final race you've selected. It is here at Woodbine. I mentioned we are broadcasting live from Woodbine here this morning. This is the Woodbine Mile, and it is a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Mile. Purse of $1 million, and it is going to be a tremendous horse race. You have Naval Power, who is the even money favorite. Everybody expects him to be in the mix late. How about you?
I'm going to take him on, Mike. I know Godolphin and Charlie Appleby have are going for the 3rd straight win in this with the 3rd different horse, after Modern Games 2 years ago and Massa the Seas last year. But Naval Power was a horse that ran like 6 times as a 2-year-old. As a 2-year-old into January, 3-year-old season, he ran 6 times. And he has run like 3 times over the last 2 years. And he's getting a freshening off of a runner-up effort in the Old Forester Turf. First off, I thought his comeback win in Dubai this winter, I thought that competition was a little bit suspect in that Grade 2 event at 9 furlongs. I thought in the Maker's Mark Mile, obviously Master of the Seas was very impressive. But the rest of those horses, Naval Power was just sort of second. He was a non-threatening second, and somebody had to be second that day. And then last time in the Old Forester Turf Classic at Churchill Downs, basically he struck the lead in mid-stretch, entering deep stretch, and then he gave it up late. And that's a race that has the horses that ran in this year's Turf Classic really haven't come back to do much, Mike, since then. I'm a little bit dubious about the quality, and I think Naval Power is going to be way overbet. Filo di Ariana is going to be the second choice in the wagering, so I'm not acting like he's some great value, but I am really keen on his chances to win the Woodbine Mile. And the reason why I expect him to deliver a career best effort is because this 8-year-old gelding is coming back off 3 weeks rest off of what I say is his best effort to date, and it will only benefit him. First and foremost, the last 2 times he's come back off of a short rest, he won the King Edward in 2022 by open lengths, and he won the Grade 2 Highlander 2 starts back off a short rest by open lengths. So he runs well off a short rest for Mark Casse. And his first 8 career wins, Mike, all came by 2 lengths or more. Every time he was in a dogfight, he got beat previously. But last time in the King Edward, he went out and he ran his second quarter mile, Filo di Ariana did, in 22.34 seconds, and he ran his third quarter mile in 23.18. And that was really too quick to go, and it softened him up a little bit. But when the runner-up came to him in the stretch, or entering the stretch, he dug in courageously. He turned him back. Once again, sort of like the authentic strike I was talking about earlier, Filo di Ariana regained control in deep stretch of that King Edward, and that runner-up was never going by him. And to me, that is a career best effort that shows like that this horse has moved to another level right now for Mark Casse. I don't think he's going to be going as quickly, anywhere near as quickly on the front end today as he did last time. And I look for him to run a big race on the front end of the Woodbine Mile, Filo di Ariana.
All right, so here is the recap of James' top 3 for you in the TwinSpires triple play. Churchill race 8, he'll take number 9, Strong State. Churchill race 10, the Iroquois, he'll go with number 4, Authentic Strike. And in the 10th race at Woodbine, the Woodbine Mile, number 5, Filo di Ariana for trainer Mark Casse at odds of 5-2. Again, we encourage you to play all of those races and every race you're going to bet this weekend over at TwinSpires. James, great stuff, man. Appreciate the time here this morning, and good luck at the windows.
Thanks so much, Mike. Have a great time at Woodbine.
All right, go get him. James Scully here with the TwinSpires triple play. Coming up next, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History, a look back at the origin of the Woodbine Mile that we just talked about. Some fascinating stuff coming up in this next segment. Stay with us. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Scott Mallory is once again offering a strong group of yearlings in books 2 through 6 at the upcoming Keeneland September yearling sale. With proven sires such as Curlin, Blame, American Pharaoh, and Liam's Map, as well as hot new sires such as Yopon, Bo Liam, Tacitus, and Charlatan. The Scott Mallory consignment has something for everyone with 48 offerings, books 2 through 6 at Keeneland September. Look for future Scott Mallory consignments at Lone Star Park's TTA sale, Fasig-Tipton Timonium, and the Fasig-Tipton Kentucky October sale.
In 1993, Dr. John West showed that EIPH occurs during exercise when the blood vessels in the lung rupture. This is due to stress caused by high blood pressures on the inside of the vessel and strong suction forces on the outside. Only flare strips and Lasix, used together or alone, have ever been clinically proven to reduce EIPH. Lasix works by reducing the high internal vessel pressure, and flare strips work by reducing the suction forces on the outside of the vessel. See the science at flarestrips.com.
This is Woodbine Week on HRRN.
Experience the thrill of world-class racing now at Toronto's Woodbine Racetrack. With live racing Thursday through Sunday, you can enjoy the best turf racing around with daily action over the famed E.P. Taylor Turf Course. Join us this Saturday, September 14th, for 3 Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Win and You're In races with the Woodbine Mile, Natalma Stakes, and Summer Stakes. For wagering updates, handicapping tips, racing news, and more, visit woodbine.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. It is Woodbine Week here on HRRN, and later today in Toronto, stakes action kicks into high gear. That's why we take a moment to look back at the history of one of those stakes races in particular as we explore the origins of the Woodbine Mile. The race was conceived in the summer of 1987 when Ontario Jockey Club President Jack Kinney and Molson Ontario Brewery's Chief Executive Hal Moran announced the formation of a $1 million thoroughbred race to be held at Woodbine. Molson had become more aggressive with sports sponsorships throughout the 1980s, most notably through the Molson Toronto IndyCar race. And Canadian racing officials were looking for a race to help fill the gap between the U.S. Triple Crown and the Breeders' Cup Classic. The hope was that a September event for 3-year-olds with a purse of $1 million Canadian might fit the bill. The race would be called the Molson Export Challenge, and it would take place at Woodbine on the dirt at a distance of 1.25 miles. The date of the inaugural running would be September 11th, 1988. In the days leading up to the Molson race, Woodbine racing manager John Whitson was asked why only 7 horses had been entered, and, even worse, why the race had attracted none of the top 3-year-olds from the United States. Whitson replied, "Since this is the inaugural running, it won't be a graded stakes by U.S. standards. And the fact of it is, people in racing are traditional." Whitson wasn't wrong. The Grade 1 Woodward Handicap on September 17th in New York was a tradition-rich event, which would attract both 49er and Brian's Time, with their connections each hoping a win over older horses could result in an Eclipse Championship season. Seeking the Gold, whose connections also were keenly aware that no 3-year-old male had a lock on the Eclipse Award, would head for the Grade 1 Super Derby in Louisiana on September 25th for a purse of $1 million. One by one, the connections of the leading U.S. 3-year-olds politely declined to participate in Canada's new race. And that was when trainer John Hertler got a phone call from the Woodbine Racing Office about a New York-bred colt in his barn named Ballindagan. Named for a town in Ireland and owned by George Lehman Jr. of Yakima, Washington, Ballindagan had been nominated for the Molson Export Challenge but was winless on the year. In his most recent outing, he had finished 3rd in the Grade 3 Long Acres Mile. The racing office told Hertler that they needed horses and that their new race was coming up weaker than expected. Ballindagan, a Keeneland September sales graduate, had won 3 legs of the New York Stallion Series as a juvenile, including a stakes record at 1 mile at Aqueduct, so he at least had some back class even if it was in restricted company. A field of 7 went to the post for the inaugural running of the Molson Export Challenge, with the Robert Brennan-owned entry of Evening Chris and Motley Mosley installed as the 3-2 morning line favorite. Evening Chris had just won the Grade 1 Jerome the prior weekend in New York, while Motley Mosley had never won more than an allowance race. Others included Tampa Bay Derby winner Cephas, Jersey Derby winner Dynaformer, Canadian standout Regal Classic, and Bluegrass Stakes runner-up Intensive Command. Once underway, the race moved at a snail's pace. Motley Mosley, widely believed to be a rabbit to ensure a fast pace for stablemate Evening Chris, instead went 6 furlongs in 1:15 and got the mile in 1 minute 40 and 3/5 seconds. As the field turned for home, Ballandagan moved from just off the pace to take the lead, while Regal Classic took aim from the outside. At the wire, Ballandagan prevailed by a half length under Jose Santos and took the inaugural running of the Molson Export Challenge. Ballandagan, who paid $17 at the windows that day, would make just one more start in his career, finishing third in the Pennsylvania Derby before being retired to stud. Following limited success in the stallion ranks, he lived the remainder of his days at Old Friends in Georgetown, Kentucky, where he died in July of 2008 at the age of 23. In 1997, what began as the Molson Export Challenge at 10 furlongs on the dirt officially became the Woodbine Mile on the turf. Some might say that was truly the first running of the race as we know it today. But the race's roots trace back to Ballandagan and his mild upset at 1.25 miles on the dirt at Woodbine more than 35 years ago. Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
Thanks, Kurt, for that story. If you missed it, go to our website to check out the podcast of every Stroll Through Racing History. And don't forget while you're there to check out our Trainer Talk presented by Fasig-Tipton and sign up for our email newsletters to stay up to date on the latest news and guests set to appear on our shows. Dale and Tim coming up next with I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Churchill Downs 14-day September meet runs September 12th through the 29th. The September meet starts the kickoff to the road to the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks with the $300,000 Grade 3 Iroquois and the $300,000 Grade 3 Pocahontas. Both races for 2-year-olds will be run on September 14th. The meet will also showcase many horses preparing for the Breeders' Cup in November, with 11 stakes worth more than $3.5 million in purses, which are powered by the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund. You are not going to want to miss the September meet at Churchill Downs. For tickets and more information, visit churchilldowns.com.
Will you accept the Breeders' Cup Challenge? The chance to compete against the best in the world? The chance to race for a piece of a record-setting $33 million in purses and awards? The chance to be a champion? Winning a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race gives you the chance to do just that. With an invitation to horse racing's biggest event of the year, the Breeders' Cup World Championships in Del Mar, where finish lines become the start of a legacy and starting gates shine on the world stage, win a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race and earn an automatic starting position in a Breeders' Cup race, entry fees paid by the Breeders' Cup, a Nominator Award of $10,000, travel awards, and so much more. Here, winning a Challenge Series race is just the beginning. View the schedule of Challenge Series races happening around the world and learn more at breederscup.com/challenge.
This is I Ask, They Answer on the Equine Forum on HRRN.
And Johnny Velasquez gives the green light to Wise Dan, and his response is instantaneous. And Wise Dan has taken the lead, and they come to the final furlong. Za approval in a full-out drive in second. Johnny hasn't moved on Wise Dan. Wise Dan, here he is, the titan of the turf, the sensational Wise Dan.
Well, the audio quality improved quite a bit from 1996 to 2013. Dan Loisel with a call of a pair of Hall of Famers showcasing their talents in the Woodbine Mile. Skip Away in 1996, Wise Dan for the second consecutive year in 2013. Hear who Dal and Tim would take if the two were to meet in a fantasy head-to-head matchup. Plus, is it right or wrong to think the fillies in today's Pocahontas will run faster than the boys in today's Iroquois? And we'll spend some time remembering trainer Chuck Simon, who left us far too soon last Sunday. Those topics and much, much more are straight ahead on this week's edition of I Asked, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf writer Tim Wilkin, all presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program in the College of Business, and all starting just 30 seconds from right now.
A spark turns into a dream, and your dreams fuel a love that will last a lifetime. Turn your passion into a career with experienced guidance, a thorough study of equine business, as well as opportunities to get your hands dirty and put your mind to work. Located in the heart of horse country, let your passion fuel your profession at the U of L Equine Industry Program. Apply today.
Well, guys, over the first 2.5 hours of the show, I've been spending a lot of time visiting with folks who are involved with the big races at Woodbine. Of course, broadcasting live from Woodbine here this morning. And in honor of today's 4 Grade 1 races, I thought it would be fun to start today's show with a game of Who Are You Taking? So I'm going to present you with a few head-to-head matchups of previous winners, and you guys will tell me who you're taking to win that matchup. And let's kick it off with this one. 1996 Woodbine Mile winner Skip Away or two-time mile winner Wise Dan. If they were to meet in a dream matchup, Tim Wilkin, who are you taking?
Well, you got to set the parameters for me. Are they running on dirt or are they running on turf?
Yeah, that makes a difference with both of those horses. Let's say turf, and let's say it's 1 mile on the turf.
Well, then I think it's Wise Dan. He won that race twice. I think I believe he set a record in one of his wins there, and he was just a phenomenal grass runner. 123 out of 31, and Skip Away. When he won the mile, it was on dirt. He was a phenomenal horse on dirt. So I think if it was on grass, you got to give it to Wise Dan all day.
Yeah, that's true. You got to give it to Wise Dan. But before we get into all this, I just wanted our listeners to know Saratoga's over. Kentucky's Downs finished. Tim Wilkins has no excuse to not get back to doing a lot of research. This show's too important for two people to show up unprepared. It sounds like he's getting started with some statistics, and he's back to his old self. So welcome back, Tim.
The resplendent researcher, Tim Wilkin.
Yeah, statistics about how many times they ran and what they did and all that kind of stuff. That was good. That's good radio. But Wise Dan was just a running fool, a mile on the turf. There aren't too many horses around. You have to go back to a horse like Lure to run with him to outrun. He'd outrun Skip Away all day long. He'd pull the gate and outrun him a mile on the turf.
All right, how about this matchup? A couple of Lady Hall of Famers. You got 1991 Woodbine Mile winner Dance Smartly or 2016 heroine Tepin. Dale, who you taking in that matchup?
That's a tough one. Those two awfully good fillies, but I'll have to go with Dance Smartly. I think she was special. There was something about her that just was different than the rest of that class in that era. She was some runner. I don't know how many races she won, how many starts she had, but I'm sure Tim can tell us.
Well, this is another one. I believe that Dan Smartly won the mile when it was on dirt, and Tepin won it on grass. The year that Dan Smartly, I believe she had won 8 straight races, 7 of them in Canada. She was, without a doubt, earned all her accolades as a champion's filly. But Tepin, and again, if this race is on the grass, I got to take her. She beat males 3 times, went all over the world to do it. Both of these fillies are in the Hall of Fames in Canada and the U.S. I mean, it's apples and oranges to me on these two. But if the race is on grass, I have to go with Tepin because she was a dominant grass runner.
Yeah, it's a great point, Tim. And by the way, Dance Smartly, 17 starts, 12 wins, 2 seconds, and 3/3. Dale, she earned $3.2 million, and that was back in the 1990s.
That was when eggs were cheap.
And I think that at the time she was the all-time leading money winner among fillies at the time, I believe.
Yeah, she was simply brilliant. Jim Day, the trainer of Dance Smartly and legendary trainer. He's had such an impact on the history of the races we're going to see later today here in Toronto. One more matchup for you, and it comes in today's race, the Woodbine, the EP Taylor, the last two Canadian horses of the year set to compete. You have Fev Rover, the defending horse of the year, and you have Moira, the horse of the year from 2 years ago. So who are you taking in that matchup, Tim?
This is a toss-up to me, and they've faced each other 6 times in their careers. Each of them have 2 wins. Moira's finished ahead of Fev Rover in the filly and mare turf. EP Taylor in 2022, Fev Rover finished ahead of her, but this is a very even matchup. But I think off of the Beverly D, when they last faced each other, was a ding-dong finish, Moira getting the best of her. Man, I have a tough time picking one of these two because I think they're pretty evenly matched. But if Dale puts a gun to my head, I'm going to take Moira.
Yeah, I'm really not too up to date. I'm a Canadian bred, to tell you the truth. So I'm going to go eeny, meeny, miny, mo, Moira wins by a nose.
Dale expecting a repeat of the Beverly D. Moira winning by a nose. That should be a tremendous race coming up later this afternoon. All right, let's move on to our next topic, and it comes from Shane in North Carolina, who emails the show and says, with the road to the 151st Kentucky Derby beginning this weekend with the Iroquois at Churchill, is there anything you guys would change about the Derby trail? Dale, anything?
I don't know. I mean, it's going pretty well. I was always a fan of the money situation because it let the horse, if you wanted to prep on the turf, you got to do that. I did that with 2 horses of my own, Delahan and Patio Prado, both went on to run 3rd in the Derby. And it also kept the conversation of the best filly, whether or not she was going to jump over and try the boys without running against them before. But this system's working. We've had some great derbies. I don't think there's a lot I'd change right now.
I don't know if I would change much either. It's something that gets the fans interested, and that's the most important thing. You want people to be interested in the game. And they follow the point system and how it goes with all throughout the year. Who's getting points, who isn't getting points, who needs points. And when the 100-point races come down to the end of the series, and a horse, either wins that or runs big there, he's not going to get to the Derby. I think it's really kind of fantastic theater for the horse racing fans. So I think they're doing the right thing right now. And if I had to do anything changing, I'd probably tweak the European thing. Where if the European horses want to come here, they got to run in our races. I don't like that. That might be the only thing.
Yeah. I was going to actually bring that part up. The European road to the Kentucky Derby, the Japanese road to the Kentucky Derby, essentially awarding an automatic bid for those runners that come from overseas. Do you like that, or Dale? Do you like Tim's idea that those horses should have to compete in U.S. prep races?
No, I don't think they're going to come over here and do that. There's a lot of restrictions on quarantine and how much time you can spend in a country and come back to your country. And as we saw this year, it brought a lot of interest to the race. The horse ran very well. And if you just gave points to that race, the horse would win enough points to get in. I was against it at first because I was sitting on the fence with a couple of horses, and I didn't like being on the outside looking in. But I like the international flair, and I think it's helped the Derby worldwide.
Do you think that? Do you like the policy that a filly, if she's going to qualify, has to run against the males in the male prep races leading up to it, or would you like maybe the top point getter on the ladies' side to have their choice if they want to run in the Derby or if they want to stay with the girls in the Kentucky Oaks?
That's my biggest thing that I don't like about the point systems. It basically takes the fillies out of it. But I don't know. I don't know what would be the right fix. I mean, do you let them in because they beat inferior product, or what they could have done it earning the money too? So I don't know. I guess the way it is right now, make them run against the boys in the prep, and if they earn their way in, they're in.
One of the changes this year comes with smaller fields in those Road to the Kentucky Derby prep races. And, Tim, there have been some changes there. Do you like those changes to shorter fields?
Yeah. I mean, if you have a short field, 5 horses, and, you're going to get points regardless. I don't think that's the right thing to do. So it's good. I think that they're reducing the points in that regard. I think you have to earn it. And 5-horse field, and again, it's not the horses that are pointing to these races. They don't know how many horses are going. But if there's only 5 horses in the field, I just think that's kind of a backdoor way of getting in. If it comes down to that with the point system, if they're going to get them for running in such a short field.
Yeah, they had to fix that problem because it's the horse that runs 5th in a 12-horse Florida Derby. It's the horse that ran last in the Bob and Beverly Lewis in California that finishes 5th or 4th. Are they equal horses? No. So the horse that finished 5th in the 12-horse field, 4th in the 12-horse field, is probably a much better horse. So field size should make a little difference.
An interesting tweak to this year's Road to the Kentucky Derby. Again, that begins later today with the Iroquois at Churchill Downs. The Pocahontas kicking off the Road to the Kentucky Oaks. Shane, appreciate the question as always. If you have a question for Dale and Tim, email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, and we will work it in for you. Rick in Sacramento has a question coming up momentarily, but guys, it's that time of the show where we say hello to our friend Nick Zito, and you tell me if the following statement is right or wrong.
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right? What do you think? Right or wrong?
In 3 of the past 5 years, the filly who won the Pocahontas ran faster than the colt who won the Iroquois. If I were to say it will happen again later today, would I be right or wrong?
What do you think? Right or wrong?
Dale, what do you think?
I don't think so this year. I think the Iroquois came up pretty tough. It's full of not this times, and they're all good horses. And I got horses in both, but I'm expecting the filly division to run slower than the colts this year.
Well, you got 14 horses in the Pocahontas. You got 12 in the Iroquois. You never know what a 2-year-old is going to do. I think I agree with Dale. I mean, I think Owen Almighty is a pretty nice horse. And Jonathan's Way from Phil Bauer it showed me something up at Saratoga. And although we'll be rooting for Dale Romans to get the double, but I think that I would think that the colts would run faster than the fillies in this one.
Dale, you've had a lot of luck in these races over the years. What is it about the Pocahontas and the Iroquois that fits your program?
Well, it's in my backyard for one, and the horses train on the tracks, and they point to these races. They're both great races, and we have had a lot of luck in both of them. Hopefully we can get something going again this weekend.
Give our listeners a little taste of what they can expect from Dale Romans today. Tell me about the horses you're running.
Well, we got 5 in. They're 5 of my better horses, so they need to run really well. Of course, we got the Macero and the Iroquois. He ran a big race at Ellis Park for a first-time starter to win for me. They got to be pretty good. He did it in the mud, did it the right way. We got the Promises Fulfilled filly which is another sire that's up and coming in the Pocahontas. She's going to run a nice race. She won. She won at Ellis Park. The filly that was 3rd came back and won the stake at Saratoga, and the filly that was 2nd came back and blew him away in a race at Ellis Park. So I think that's ended up being a key race. And another not this time. Kinetic Control is a really good maiden I'm running, so people need to keep an eye on him. He's a good colt. It's going to be a long day, hopefully a good day.
Yeah, Quinn's Promise 10-1 on the morning line in that Pocahontas for Dale Romans, and you heard him say Macero.
That's from our friend Bob Barron, isn't it?
Bob Barron, owned and bred, so we need to get Bob Barron and Promises a stakes win.
Absolutely.
All right, Dale, good luck in that race, and we'll bring back Nick Zito for that segment, Right or Wrong, on next week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. Two more topics to get to. The next one comes from Rick in Sacramento, California, and Rick was listening to a recent Trainer Talk interview that I did with Ferris Allen, and Ferris trained Maryland-bred Miraclewood, who finished 5th in the 1986 Preakness. Miraclewood started, how about this, guys, 117 times during his career. So Rick wants to know, Dale, if you have ever had a war horse like that, and Tim, have you ever spent time around a horse like that? Dale, why don't you take it first?
You know, I haven't had one in a long time. One of my war horses, I don't know if he won 12 races as Silver Max. I always considered him a war horse. He showed up every time he ever ran. But back when I was a kid, I like to always talk about a horse named Ace Rula that my father had. He was a claiming horse. He ran over 150 times, 150 races. And at 11 years old, my father and a young Bill Mott claimed him back and forth from one another like 3 or 4 times. They both loved Ace Rula. Was just a grinder. That was a long time ago, but I always still think of him when I see these horses that have started a lot of times.
You know, having a horse that starts 117 times or whatever, that's just insane. As far as being around a horse like that, I was around Zippy Chippy for a little bit, and, he was a lovable loser who went 0 for 100 for his career. But as far as, you look at horses these days, you're not going to see a horse that's going to run that many times. It just won't happen. You look at Casa Creed, who retired this year for Bill Mott at 8 years old. He only had 36 starts in his career, and that's considered a lot. So as far as seeing a horse run 100 times, I think the only horse you're going to see run 100 times a day, of course, on the merry-go-round.
Yeah, it's not likely that you're going to see that anymore in today's era. Dale, Rick also wants to know how a trainer goes about training a veteran horse like that with so many starts, or do they get to a point where they just kind of train themselves?
Well, they do, and the older they get, the less you really have to do with them. They've trained their whole lives. They're fit. Most of them are hickory anyway, and you don't have to do near as much with them. Just keep them happy, keep them sound, keep them healthy, keep them happy.
It's
But,
pretty
they're
cool.
so rare. Like, all the horses Bill Mott's had in his life, and one night we're out having a nice time, and we started talking about Ace Rula, and that had been 40 years ago. He remembered everything about the old horse. Could tell you everything about his $5,000 claimer he had 40 years ago. So they're rare commodities.
Yeah, it's special having those horses around the barn, isn't it?
It is special. It's special to have horses that stick in your mind that long. I actually retired. My dad retired him at the end. He ended up saying, "I'm just going to turn him out." And we took him to the farm, and he lost 200 pounds. Was miserable, hated it, hated being retired. We had to give him somebody to make a riding horse out of him, even though he was at that time 12 years old, just because he had to have a job to do. And some of them just love it. Yeah.
Yep, great story. Rick in Sacramento, appreciate the question. Again, if you have a question for Dale and Tim, let us know. We will work it in for you. All right, one more topic to get to before our Showdown 3 update and Dale and Tim's final point of the week. And, guys, this is a sad note to end the program, but I think it's something we need to discuss. Last Sunday, trainer Chuck Simon lost his battle with cancer at age 57. Chuck learned about racing while working with Hall of Famers Alan Jerkins and Wayne Lucas and Nick Zito. He saddled 359 winners during his training career, which included victories in the Grade 2 Churchill Downs Handicap with Battle 1 and the Grade 3 Cardinal with Sabalina. He was as passionate about racing as anyone that I have ever known, and he had an impact on so many people's lives. So, guys, as we often do on this show when a member of our racing family passes away, I want to take a few minutes to remember Chuck here this morning. Dale, you want to take this one first? When you hear Chuck Simon's name, what comes to mind?
Well, a lot of things. Chuck and I were friends. I've known Chuck a long time, back to when he worked for Allen. And he was just a great horseman, passionate about this industry. He did a little radio, too, and liked to talk about horses, very knowledgeable. But one of the fun stories about Chuck is one year up at Saratoga. Chuck came from the harness world originally before he met Allen, and he was working at Saratoga Harness. So when he was on his own, or he was working actually for Ken Ramsey's how long ago. It was before I had any Ramsey horses. He came up with this idea we'd claim a harness horse and race it all summer. So me and him and Dr. Steve Alday put some money up, and we went over and claimed a horse. And he managed our stable for us. And I've told this story on here before. It was one of the best days of my career when we got beat first time out, and I got to go down and ask our trainer what happened and whine a little bit. But we ended up winning 3 out of 6 and got claimed, and it was a fun summer that year. We'd all show up at the harness track to watch our horse run. I don't think Chuck ever paid us our money after the horse got claimed, but that's all right, Chuck. We forgive you.
Timmy?
You know, Chuck was born up the road here in Saratoga. He was a Saratoga born and bred guy, and you know, I got to know Chuck, and the thing about him is after his training career was over and he would do his radio stuff, and he wasn't afraid to ruffle anyone's feathers. He would say what was on his mind. If he thought something was wrong in horse racing, he'd let everybody know about it. And, you know, more often than not, he was right in what he was saying. Just a passionate guy. I remember it was last summer. It was after the trivia contest at the Hall of Fame. Myself and Mike Kane, who were on the winning team, were leaving, and we were out in the parking lot, and there was Chuck, and we must have sat there and talked with him for Mike was there for an hour because Mike talked the bark off a tree, but I was there probably for a half hour, and just the stories he was telling and the things that he was spouting off about this guy and that guy, and he was just a passionate, knowledgeable. He bled horse racing. He loved the game so much, and you know, we're all poor today for the fact that he's not here anymore. I'm glad he's not suffering anymore, but I wish he was still here.
Yeah, very well said. I remember meeting Chuck when I was working at Horse ID in Keeneland with Barb Borden, and Chuck was around the racetrack often, and I would get a chance to talk with him. And at that time, I wasn't even involved in the radio side of things. I hadn't gotten to that point in my career yet, and I was intimidated by so many of the big-name trainers and the jockeys I would meet and a lot of the owners. And whenever I met Chuck, he just there was no wall. He just made you feel like he had known you your entire life, and the conversations flowed so easily, and he was always fun-loving. He always had a kind word to say, and that's what I'm going to remember about Chuck Simon.
He will be greatly missed.
Yep, no doubt about it. The world is the world in the racing world definitely, as Tim said, poorer now that Chuck has left us. All right, moving on to the Showdown 3 update. We had that contest ongoing through the Breeders' Cup. That's winding down, actually. We're getting closer to the Breeders' Cup with every minute. With another win last weekend, defending Showdown champion, our very own Dale Romans, has started to put a little distance between he and his competition. Dale now has 66 points. Dale, that's 12 better than my Team Mush. Surprisingly, somehow, sitting at 54, and Tim is biding his time at the back of the pack with 51 points. But, Dale, the stage is yours. You're ahead.
Well, I kind of feel like Tom Brady playing against a high school secondary, to tell you all the truth. And I think that if we ever do this again, I'm just going to pick 3 horses to make it a little bit more even. Not being arrogant. It's
no, not being arrogant at all. I mean, I would think that you'd be a little more humble.
That's as humble as I could make it, Tim. I tried.
Tim, he hasn't won anything yet. He hasn't won anything yet. Long way to go.
He's like a runaway locomotive right now. I think it might be it's going to take some catching to get him.
Did you see how Cogburn showed true grit again down at Kentucky Downs?
Oh yeah! As soon as he hit the lead, I was like, my goodness! I mean, he was phenomenal. And first thing I thought of was you.
Did you get that reference though?
Yes, the True Grit
Cogburn
reference.
True Grit.
Yes, I got that.
All right.
Dale's on his A game this morning.
Dale, I'll tell you one thing. If you were still heavy, I could say bold talk for a one-eyed fat man. But you're not heavy anymore.
That's right. Bold talk from a one-eyed ex-fat man.
All right. Dale has the lead. No action this weekend in the Showdown. All 3 teams are idle. We're ramping up for that run to the Breeders' Cup. And then, again, the contest going through Breeders' Cup Saturday. You can check out the complete scoreboard on our website, horseracingradio.net. Time of the show. What's that, Dale?
I said, please do check the scoreboard, listeners.
Time for Dale and Tim to make their final point of the week as we wind down this edition of I Ask, They Answer. Timmy, why don't you kick it off for us?
Well, I was very happy to hear Dale talk about my research prowess, and I'm thinking I might start to share the knowledge. And Dale, I'm going to offer you a class in research as we move forward in this show, because I think it's something you could use.
I definitely could use it, but I'm just going to play off of you. I want to talk about the Keeneland sales. I spent the last week all this week at Keeneland sales working, buying young horses. But with young horses, I had a young man with us this week, just the newest member of All Ball Family Racing, Tyler Rhodes. And what a good kid. One of the under 30 leaders of this game in the future is going to be a steward of the game. And it made me feel good. He came in well prepared, asked good questions, and it made me feel good about the future of our sport and the young people that are getting involved. And I want to encourage all of them. Just get out and go to the sales. Do the things like Tyler's doing. Learn the game. Ask questions. Go to the races. Get access to the backside. Get involved, because you are the stewards of the future of this game.
Well said.
All right.
Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin, I Ask, They Answer. Guys, appreciate it. All the best this weekend, Dale. Tim, good luck at the windows.
See you next one in Toronto.
All right, we will. If you have a topic you want to hear Dale and Tim discuss, email it to me, Mike at horseracingradio.net, or post it on our social media pages, and we will work it in for you in the weeks ahead. I Ask, They Answer is presented every week by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program and the College of Business. I'm back with more. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
After an exhilarating day at the Breeders' Cup races on Friday, November 1st, don't miss Thoroughbred Charities of America's Bash at the Breeders' Cup at the Del Mar Hilton, directly across the street from the racetrack. Immerse yourself in a night of savory bites, handcrafted cocktails, live music, and an opportunity to bid on extraordinary items, all in support of Thoroughbred Charities of America. For tickets and more information, please visit tca.org.
Hi, Tony. Hey, Matthew. There's a reason why Tony's Steaks and Seafood is my favorite restaurant. It's because I want to feel part of the family. Isn't that right, Tony?
That's right. There's a saying on the wall that I truly believe in. There's always room for one more at our table. We just want you to be part of our family.
And believe me, you will be. It's Tony's Steaks and Seafood right across from Triangle Park. Visit them at Tony'sSteaksandSeafood.com.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding. Whoa! Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Woohoo! Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Thursday evenings, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, is the Brisnet.com call-in show. It's your chance to call in and let the Horse Racing Radio Nation know what's on your mind. Call us at 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776. And discuss the topics you choose in the world of thoroughbred racing. The Brisnet.com call-in show. Sirius 162, XM 207, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Well, remember, there is no better way to follow racing, breeding, industry news, and more than with Blood Horse. And there are so many platforms in which they bring it to you. The bloodhorse.com website, Blood Horse Daily app, Blood Horse Magazine, Blood Horse Plus, and, of course, their social media. For more than 100 years, it has been Blood Horse. No one covers thoroughbred racing, breeding, and our sport like Blood Horse. Fun edition of I Ask, They Answer with Dale and Tim, and I'm glad we took some time and got an opportunity to remember our friend Chuck Simon, who is definitely going to be missed in this sport of thoroughbred racing. Covered a lot of ground for you here this morning, as always. Got a chance to look at the big races down at Churchill Downs, the Iroquois, the Pocahontas, and, of course, those 4 Grade 1s, 3 win in your ends taking place later today at Woodbine. It's going to be an awesome day of racing. The weather's cooperating. Should be a lot of fun. My thanks to all of our guests for making this show possible, including Dale and Tim in the previous segment, James Scully for the TwinSpires Triple Play, Kurt Becker for that Stroll Through Racing History, and so much more. If you miss any portion of the show, check out the podcast on our website and on every podcast platform. Now for my producer, Lee Delapina, in our Lexington studios, Chauncey handling all of our social media, and my producer on site, my beautiful wife, Michelle, I'm Mike Penna. Thanks for listening to the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires. Bring on the Broncos. Here we go.